I was thinking the same thing. Should not need it.
Call the September 15th common. It is on. It is on. Call the September 15th Common Council meeting to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll. Madam Clerk.
Mayor Olson.
Here.
Alderman Dandria.
Here.
Alderman Mayor.
Here.
Alderwoman Wilhelm.
Here.
Alderwoman Hanneman.
Here.
Alderman Barber.
Here.
Alderman Nelson.
Here. We have a quorum. Please rise and join the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much and good evening. First agenda item is citizens' comment period. Any citizen wishing to speak, please rise, come forward, give us your name and address, and let us know what you'd like to say.
My name is Shelley Tesmer, address 6809 South 27th Street. I just wanted to say thank you for putting me on the agenda for item number 13.
Good to see you, Shelley. Anyone else? Good evening.
Ed Skorowski, 8642 South 116. I'm here in support of the O'Malley project. I think it's good business, and I think I should give it 100% support. Thank you.
My name is Jim Radlevich. I'm at 9901 West Rawson Avenue. I just had attended the licensure committee meeting. My concern is the Hills has eyes. Given that the COVID-19 has increased in the number of cases over the past week and a half, the governor, as well as the Wisconsin State Health Department, has in the last 4 days has changed their approach. they're recommending that, they're recommending that.
Rich, that door's got to stay open, please.
They're recommending that you not have events, large group gatherings and the like. Especially with the attendance of universities and schools and that, the COVID positive cases have drastically increased. My request would be to avoid, and this year, not have the event, period, for the safety of the community, not only Franklin, but the greater Milwaukee community. I'm saying this as a physician and a surgeon. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Jesse Hintz, 8527 West Willow Point Parkway. Later on tonight, the board will consider the expansion of the Pleasant View Park, which would include multiple pickleball courts. Pickleball, as you know, is really expanding in popularity. It's a great way of bringing people in the community, Mr. Mayor, from other cities to show how beautiful our community is. I hope you truly consider passing that resolution to expand the amount of pickleball courts in our community. Thank you.
My name is Paul Marshall, 8930 South 116th Street. I'm just here to support item number 6 with the UDO text amendment. I hope it passes. Thank you.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Todd Niedermeyer from 8757 West Elm Court here in Franklin.
You said no more than 15 pages.
This is my compendium. I'm just here to unofficially represent about 100 people who are very anxious to see improved pickleball facilities in this community, in which we have a small subset of people here that wanted to show up to prove that we really exist. I understand you have a tight agenda tonight with a lot of information on it. We respect that. We support the Plan Commission's recommendation for item G8 for your approval. If you have any questions along the way, I do have plenty of information to support the movement towards the expansion of pickleball, and we greatly appreciate it. Any questions of me?
Just a statement. Don't lift your feet, shuffle them.
And don't cross your feet. Thank you very much.
Anyone else?
Jacob Malinowski, 5684 Oakwood Street, over across the tracks in Greendale. I was encouraged by a member of the council to come introduce myself to the community of Franklin on the record very briefly. I know you have a 10-page agenda tonight, so I'll be brief. I'm running for state assembly here in the 82nd district, which includes Franklin, and I'm here to make a commitment to the council and to the people of Franklin. What that means is I'm going to show up, listen, do the job, and then get the hell out of the way. Showing up and listening means coming here and actually going to work. Our state assembly hasn't gone to work in over 150 days while being paid by the taxpayer to do so. It means listening to the problems that a lot of folks around here are speaking about. Things like a high tax burden, investments in healthcare and in education. It means doing that job, and not just saying I want to lower your taxes, but explaining exactly how. Closing the dark store loophole, which takes $200 to $400 out of the pocket of every property owner here in Franklin. That means expanding shared revenue so that Franklin gets back what it pays into the state. And that means getting representation here in Milwaukee County. A lot of your taxes are taken up by MMSD and the Technical School Board, and we have no representation on that. And then it means getting the hell out of the way. A member of this council told me very bluntly, stay in your lane, and that's exactly what I think government should do. My dad's a carpenter, and I don't think government is the solution. I don't think it's the problem. I think it's one tool on the tool belt. So my name is Jacob Malinowski. My phone number is 414-460-8621. That will ring this. Please don't test that right now. It will be an interruption. And I'm here to talk. I'm here to listen. So thanks so much, the council, for giving me this brief time on your crowded agenda.
Thank you. Anyone else? Haven't seen you in a while.
How are you doing, Mr. Mayor?
Good.
Greg Kowalski, 3229 West Drury Lane in Milwaukee. I'm just here to speak in favor of the three items on the agenda, I suppose. It would be the pickleball expansion, Mr. O'Malley's proposal for a swim and tennis club on 76th and Ryan, and the proposed dog park. As probably most of you know, about a decade ago, I was part of a citizens group that was spearheading something very similar in size, just because we recognized the need even then for needs like tennis, pickleball, swimming, at all levels, you know, whether it be just for community-wide purposes, whether it be for the school district, whether it be for private interests. And it's good to see that everything is coming together, it seems, all on the same night. I just, you know, hope that we can, you know, come together, start connecting some of those dots, and you know, hopefully get something a little more positive for the residents, especially everybody that has been here for a long time, putting lots of tax money into the community, and, you know, waiting for these community recreational amenities for all these years. Thank you.
Good evening. Marcelino Rivera, 5536 West Allwood Drive. I'm here to speak on the O'Malley proposal. I am fully in support of growing businesses in the area and the community of Franklin. However, I do have concerns about changing the residential and agricultural properties and turning them into a place where a storage facility will be. I am not sure how that's supposed to draw in money from taxpayers and support the rest of the project. I'm wanting to know more details about how the rest of the project, according to the proposal, is going to fund the rest of it, the tennis court and the pool. And if that's coming from Quick Trip, which is a petrol station, I do have serious concerns about it being so close, proximity-wise, to the wetlands there, and just close to what is another proposal that I'll be speaking to all of you and addressing all of you about later, at a later date, which is the Strauss-Band's proposal. And so I just want to make sure that I can make sure that you guys all see my face or part of it, and know who I am, and know that I am committed to the environment, the community, and the success of businesses in the area. I am a small business owner myself, and how you guys seem to hand out TIFs and allow all of these taxpayers to support some of these businesses and its operations that you guys are supporting, I don't see how it's right. You're supporting millionaires and out-of-state millionaires and people that have excess of money, and people like myself, in order to get opportunities and bring positive and other things that would actually draw in business to the community, we're squashed, or we have a mountain after mountain after mountain, and then hoops and hoops on fire in order to jump through, in order to be a success. And I don't think we need any more Quick Trips in the area. You know, I don't know how far the next closest one is, but it just doesn't make sense to put these things in. Part of the reason that I'm a Franklin resident is because I enjoy having nature spaces. I don't want this to turn into Oak Creek or anywhere that has all these buildings. Everywhere you go, there's buildings after building, and a storage facility, I don't get it. Like, we need to be more cognizant of nature and positive jobs, and building and sharing with the community, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sir, what was your name?
Marcelino Rivera.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any additions or corrections to the regular meeting minutes of September 1st?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor of the motion to approve signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Move on to item E, organizational business, confirmation of the following appointments: James Martins to the Police and Fire Commission, Robert Getz to Economic Development. Any request for separate action?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Madam Clerk.
Alderman Dandria.
Aye.
Alderman Mayor.
Aye.
Alderwoman Wilhelm.
Aye.
Alderwoman Hanneman.
Aye.
Alderman Barber.
Aye.
Alderman Nelson.
Aye.
Motion carries. 6 ayes, no noes, no absence, no abstentions. Move on to the regular order. Item G1 is a request from request for the Fire Department participation in Milwaukee County Agreement for Mutual Assistance, and to authorize the fire chief to participate in any continued revision and amendment for the shared service operational policy.
So
Move to
moved.
approve.
For both,
Second.
thanks. This is for both the shared services agreement and to allow the chief to make modifications to the operational policy. Any other discussion, questions for the chief? This did pass the Intergovernmental Cooperation Council for recommendation for approval yesterday.
Unanimously, I believe.
That's correct. Thank you, Chief.
My pleasure.
Alderman and Chief. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Good job, Chief. Thank you. This is very important. Chief, do you want to talk a little bit about why it's important? I think
Both
it's
of these
important that you talk
agreements
about
are
why it's-
important because they provide a consistent level of service throughout Milwaukee County. They let us cross borders to send the closest resources to an emergency, and they provide an operational framework to let us all work together once we all arrive on those scenes together. I think it's important to note that it doesn't necessarily get us the efficiencies and the cost savings of merging smaller departments into larger entities. That's where true cost savings is, and we need to keep looking in those directions and working to those avenues. I think Alderman Mayor, as a fellow fire chief in Milwaukee County, would agree that the fire chiefs as a group believe we could do this better. We could provide this service more cheaply, and that comes through working together with our partners. So I will continue to push in that direction.
You want to talk about Friday night?
Yeah, Friday night, as many of you may know, we had a massive fire at Franklin Mobile Estates. All of our resources were committed to another house fire south of Ryan Road. The first two companies were Milwaukee Engine 14 and Truck 8. They came from 13th and College to 27th and College. They got there first. It makes sense to run this way. It makes sense to work together with our partners. They saved multiple trailers and probably even lives. So we owe them a debt of gratitude, and we will continue to strive to work with our partners.
Questions for the chief? Okay, thank you, Chief.
Mayor, can I
next,
just throw something in here?
Alderman Mayor.
Chief Remington said it very, very succinctly. You know, we can't continue to exist, each department can't continue to exist on its own. We all want to have our Franklin Fire Department show up to the scene, or whatever name is on the fire engine. But unless we all work together within the county, we're not going to be able to do that going forward. We need to cooperate exactly as Chief Remington stated.
Truth is no one department can provide enough equipment to safely put out a fire quickly in a timely manner. It's just not going to happen. But anyway.
And there's cost savings as well when we combine and work together, significant cost savings.
Item G2 is a request for council approval of the extension of the agreement between the city of Franklin and Milwaukee County for participation in the Milwaukee County EMS program through 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Questions for the chief? Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. G3 is a request to authorize certain officials to accept the landscape buffer yard easement as part of a two-lot certified survey map for the Matheson property on Loomis Court east of South North. Alderman Wilhelm.
I have a question. Are we sure this is the correct certified survey map? Because it says the zoning is R8, R2.
Peggy?
And it also doesn't seem to correlate with the legal description, so I'm just wondering.
Mr. City Attorney.
The resolution that's recommended for adoption prepared by Department of City Development as subject to further review by department staff and technical corrections by the city attorney. So I think staff heard your questions and they can look at that.
Okay. Well, I'd like to know what I'm voting on, so I'm probably not going to support that. Thank you.
Is there action on this item?
Yeah, let's move this on. I'll make a motion to approve with those additional conditions that staff and the city attorney will scrub this first before it's finished.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed?
No.
Madam Clerk?
Alderman Nelson.
No.
Alderman Barber.
Aye.
Alderwoman Hanneman.
Aye.
Alderwoman Wilhelm.
No.
Alderman Mayor.
Aye.
Alderman DeAndrea.
Aye.
Motion carries 4 ayes, 2 noes, no absent, no abstentions. Item G4 is the next item on that particular cleanup action, which is a conservation easement for this 2-lot certified survey map. There are the same conditions on it.
Same conditions, motion to approve.
Second.
Let's just forego the theatrics. Madam Clerk?
Alderman DeAndrea.
Aye.
Alderman Mayor.
Aye.
Alderwoman Wilhelm.
No discussion? Aye.
Alderwoman Hanneman.
Aye.
Alderman Barber.
Aye.
Alderman Nelson.
No.
5 ayes, 1 no, no absent, no abstentions. Motion carries. Move on to G5, which is a review for commercial development proposal for 6 lots, which will propose to include a storage facility, a quick trip, a health club, which includes a tennis court and a pool on 76th and Ryan. Mr. O'Malley. Glenn, can you get him set up with a microphone, please?
It's good to see everyone again.
Be very friendly with the microphone.
All right. I appreciate being able to come in front of everyone and then have a chance to talk about the property right on the southeast corner of 76 and Ryan. I don't know, because I've never had to do a concept review before, if in the past I know that Plan Commission shows some of the pictures and there's a chance to talk about it, if that's how this is handled, or should I just continue just explaining what I'm looking to do, or can I have? Everything that I submitted, I assumed, because I had it on the drive and I had it in hard copies, was going to be available at this meeting, so that you could have a copy of actually seeing what I'm talking about.
It's in your packet. You should have everything that we have. Nothing for the public.
All right, well, I guess, all right. Well, not having it to show what it looks like up on the screen makes it a little bit more difficult to describe what I'm talking about. Certainly, it'd be helpful to share that with everyone. The idea that I would like to present, it's a 27-acre site. It's a site that has been at a location that has not had any, truly, we haven't had any companies truly coming and asking what's going to be available to develop. And I believe they came up with a great suggestion of how to develop the site. I really don't know that I believe with 2 other large corners that all 3 of our corners are going to be developed with, grocery stores on all 3. So I'm proposing a site that can be developed across the front with access across the back to the properties along Ryan Road. And then, well, this again, maybe I've got a better drawing to bring up. I didn't, and I apologize. I assumed I was just going to come because we had brought everything with us that would be available to look at. So the drawing shows that there's the corner of the property, but I guess I'm going to use the screen to try to talk about the project. No? Okay. All right. So on the drawing, you've got to the north a property here, and you got a property here. The sewer came in, when it was proposed, came in directly at this point, and this is the MMSD, and it came down to a point, went over to here, comes down, and then across out through here. I know that this is a 33-acre commercial site. This is a site that I don't know if it's been out, what's going to happen on this property yet, so I'm not going to discuss it. But my proposal was to have the one access as a main access onto Ryan Road here as a full access with a right in, right out access at a point somewhere in this area. The property was going to be subdivided with a road, not a frontage road, but it's a collector road that comes across the back. And then it ties in with the street that comes down from above. And then it would cul-de-sac down here. There would be that Quick Trip and I do not want to say that Quick Trip is the only option. It's just that we have negotiations going on. So I don't have my contract yet with them. But they have shown strong interest that they would like to be at this location, not at the actual corner, but here because of the traffic flow coming across as a four-directional location. I've done a traffic study, and certainly this is what it's proposing as the location. It also meets up with a future loop that would come across to the north as well. The traffic coming down, and again, going back out to 76th Street, gives access that I'm not necessarily getting all sorts of access, but one right in, right out location. The size of the first parcel is large enough that it could be subdivided into 3 commercial outlots. The fourth being where I'm using the name Quick Trip, the street, and then of course another parcel on the other side of the street here. The land to the south, abutting the parkland, is where I had proposed, plus using this being the southern exposure, being the side of the face that would have the pool. So it's not being, looking to that direction, but looking out to the south, taking in the sun and so forth. I had asked about the idea of connecting to the River Parkway bike path in some way. I'm not sure how that would be accomplished, but it would be terrific to tie into it to this pool and tennis area over here. The pool and tennis area is a seasonal idea. It may be that the tennis would be available to be turned into an indoor, possibly, but in the drawing I submitted, it was an outdoor pool and tennis. It was actually a combination of tennis and pickleball courts that were shown on the drawing. And then, of course, there was just the balance of land that was off onto the, along 76th Street. Anyway, the proposal for this was that it was going to be a pool that had both an adult side and a kid side. So that unlike what they do up in Greendale, and they close down for 10 minutes every hour for adult swim, this was going to have it just to be adults were on one side, which would include a few 3 hot tubs, and then also I would require a liquor license and food permit, because it would also have a kind of a swim up area for getting food and beverage also. So as I said, the top part of it would be then a restaurant. So it's on the lower level, it would be the locker rooms and the just coming in, but the upper level would have been a restaurant with a balcony looking kind of down onto the area here, and it would be a year-round restaurant. So then the parking that's here is adequate for both the restaurant and the pool and areas. I've had, now where I'd like to go is to describe the self-storage. So that is my primary business, is self-storage. If you go on to any of my websites, they're all drive-in self-storages. So you have these where you don't see any self-storage outside. It is exclusively, you drive into the building, it could be snowing outside, and it's just, you can park, it's, you're out of the elements. If it's raining, it's super hot. Actually, the company that was involved in the design and such, I'd like to, in fact, bring up one of the designers to describe it, but I'll do that in a moment if you have questions. I'm not going to just jump into that, but if you have questions, it is a very, from the outside, it looks like a three-story office building. So it doesn't have the image that I think people have of self-storage that's maybe the outside. Self-storage has really changed a lot too. I don't think most people realize how different self-storage is used today. Certainly the kind that I'm proposing has it to be used by businesses quite a bit. And certainly COVID has shown our industry a much bigger business too. What that business now is a lot of people who have now had jobs living or working out of their home are now utilizing that they can use this storage space to also be kind of an extension of their office. So it has been a growing thing that way. It's also been a growing way for families as they are getting older. They will lose a loved one, and a lot of times they don't wish to get rid of all these memories. So they do hold on to some of the things, and in fact, they in time will give it out to any of the family members. And of course, millennials are a biggest group of people that use self-storage. They're the #1 group. Most millennials today are not making home investments. They're choosing to be more mobile, and they're looking for, the place that they'd stay at, but they use the self-storage as an extension of their living space. And it's, self-storage has been a wonderful industry for many reasons. It doesn't add anything for kids whatsoever to the community. It doesn't have a traffic volume. That traffic is an issue. It's certainly not a light pollution, a smell pollution, and all the other typical negatives about any kind of industry. It has one positive, though. It does pay well in taxes. So as with what is the benefit to the city, it has a non-negative impact. It's a very low impact type business, but yet has a great return for tax reasons. So I don't know if anybody and everybody can see it, but the building itself is, as you can tell, it looks longer. It's because there's the door here at this end. As you travel inside, as I mentioned, there's elevator shafts inside. So as you're pulling through, not only are there elevator shafts that can take you to the second or third floor, there's also breeze doors that open up if you're going into the first floor of the space. It's also got direct garage doors too. So right from the drive lane, there are those units that can open up right on the drive lane as well. And again, one unique thing about this building, I'm actually using this as a prototype for other ones that I'd like to be building in nationally, in fact, is it has the space to the back. It's very common that the example of an auction house. Now, it's not what you think of. I think when I think of auction house, it's every other week, and how it happens, it works, is a lot of people when they're moving, unless you have a large estate where you can actually afford for a company to come in and mark your things, and they can be sold as an estate situation. If you don't have that, maybe you have a much smaller estate and it's not as much, you don't know what to do with these things. And a lot of people, and I'm going back to the older generation, they really are a huge, this is to them, They love the convenience of a company that can come in, help them with their moving, because we offer the moving as well to help in that part. We help either move it to the next place where they're moving to with anything that they have extra. We have that then that we sell off. And then when that gets sold off, the proceeds are helping them to pay for all of this stuff to happen. And again, you know, when you lose that loved one, your world gets upside down. By the way, I'm happy to introduce my wife, Stephanie, who we're both widowers. I lost my wife. We were married for 24 years. She was the best friend and wife you could have. And Stephanie lost her husband also, and we met on an airplane. So anyway, she does speak English, but she's from South Africa. Anyway.
Congratulations, Stephanie.
Thank you. But the thing about it is I know that this is a subject that I heard. This is a new thing too. Social media. I've never been in a meeting where everybody's discussed the whole project before I even had a chance to see anybody. So I've seen on Facebook, there is obviously a Facebook page that has added a lot of the pictures you're looking at. So coming out the back end of the building, it's just the entrance or exit of the door. It's also a loading dock, a full for a tractor trailer type, and with the glass facing inside to the auction area. This inside the drive lane is the area of that same auction area. It gets the way it works is if this table was to be put in it, once before it gets moved, it's an iPad. We take a picture. We have a thing that gets on it. It knows exactly. Everybody knows where that table goes. So if it says that goes to the next house, but if it goes to the auction, it goes to the auction. It immediately gets uploaded into a file to show that this auction item is going to be up in the next 2 weeks, and then persons can be already before the auction looking at it. It's a silent auction. There's no gavel to end the auction. It starts on a Friday, it ends on a Saturday. Whoever's the highest bid at the end of the day on a Saturday, that's how it gets sold. It's proven, it shows that you get more for that desk or a table. If this was at a home estate, and you put a value of $100 on that, when one person walks through and says, well, I'll give you 50, your exposure is only to a few people that might be interested in that table. So, you know, they'll go, well, what about 60? And they'll get 60 for it. With the auction, the opportunity of that table being sold for 100 is so much greater. And so that's where it's the financial benefit to them. This is actually very common to what's seen going on. You've got a brand new one on a major highway, Highway 83 in Heartland. You've got exactly, I mean, I could put up their building right on Highway 83 in Heartland, and it's highly visible, just as it looks much like this. In Oak Creek, right at where they've just invested so much money, there's a brand new one. In fact, again, the company that built it is here to talk about that if you wish to, but they have it right at Howell and Drexel, right on the main corner. They've got a brand new facility there as well. Self-storage is definitely not, and I know I've read it where someone's saying, well, we have one already in that area. That self-storage is not going to be climate control, or not even when you say climate control, it is climate controlled. It's humidity controlled. And that's a big factor when you're considering storing. It is a hybrid to what you're probably used to and such. And it's also, again, I don't have any outside storage units whatsoever. So this is a building that in my initial drawing of the space, I had presented it at the opposite corner, or on the other corner of where Quick Trip was shown. If there's a real pushback to that as being it's right on Ryan, I had taken the idea of moving it from there to now being behind and adjacent to the pool and tennis area. The only reason I wasn't certain if I wanted to do that was because it limited myself to the possibility of how large the pool and tennis club could become if I'm, putting it in a box and not allowing for expanded possibilities. So, there's an excellent drawing. So this is showing the self-storage, that road coming in, the road going back over here to 76th Street. Again, the commercial properties that would be above here, this being that Quick Trip. This is that lot I was just describing. If I'm to move this, which is here, to this location here, this would become another outlot just like these here then. Again, my only reasons for saying, if I end up putting it here, any thoughts of my idea of expanding this idea is now, I'm in a box at that point.
Jim, did you consider putting it on parcel 3? The one on very south? Southwest?
Parcel 3 is this piece.
No, down, right below you.
This?
Yep.
This piece?
Hmm?
This is a stormwater detention pond.
Does it have to be a stormwater? That doesn't.
It's the
exist at
lowest point on the property, so it typically works best for it.
I didn't think that.
And
that
it
there was
already
a-
exists too. So as far as the location, I mean, it naturally drains this way, so that's how that's
I got it.
designed.
Let's
So,
talk about money for a second, Jim. This is 30 acres, 27?
27.
And give me the construction value of the various pieces.
The construction value of this would be approximately, what would you say, about 3.5? So about 3.5 here. The gas station potentially is 2.5 maybe. Again, I'm not prepared to say that these are accurate numbers, but I'm thinking it's, these are large enough that they're all about 1.7 acre size lots. If there was a bank, whether there was also a restaurant, a freestanding type restaurant, what this might, right now, this is not something I have tenants for at this point, but they're large enough that certainly it would accommodate nearly any kind of retail up here.
Well, how about the pool tennis court?
The pool and tennis court, development of it, it's gonna be again, that's gonna be at least $2.5 million to build that as well.
Mayor,
Alderman Wilhelm.
just clarification on the acreage. You said 27, the write-up in front of me says 22, so which,
Well, maybe that's taking out some of this property, suppose, possibly? I know it's 27, so if the write-up is saying 22, maybe it's counting the parcel sizes and excludes the roads themselves. I didn't write up the
Okay.
proposal.
that's all.
Okay, so,
Any thoughts?
well, we're looking at $8.5 million on, argue about the acreage, 25 acres on a major intersection in the city. You tell me.
I'm telling you if that's a good decision.
Yeah.
I feel as though,
Jim, sit in my chair, you tell me.
I guess I would
You and I
ask,
have had this conversation, so nobody in the audience feel like I'm picking on him, because we've had this conversation 3 or 4 times. And I've had it with your dad, too. Not that and you and I have also had this conversation, I like the idea.
what part don't you like? Because it sounds like you don't like any of it.
Oh, I like the pool and the tennis courts, I think that's great.
So is that the value that's
But
not,
that's a 3-month experience.
okay,
The storage facility, I think the building looks great for a storage facility,
okay,
but I wouldn't put it on Ryan Road because that's a destination on a highly trafficked road.
okay.
You want to put something that people will take advantage of driving by, which would be the Quick Trip. I'm not sure we need a Quick Trip there, but a Quick Trip. and some other restaurants and things like that, commercial corner. But
What's the best use that you would propose for this property? Because I'm more than happy to consider other options.
well, I'd like the alderman to take a look at this, but we got to be serious about this because
Well, and I've spent very good money, so I feel as though I'm being very
I
serious
understand
about
that,
this
Jim.
proposal.
This is your wheelhouse, so I want to treat you with respect, but we got to look at this from a business standpoint as far as the city and returning an investment to our community. We demand we demand a high value per acre from our business community, and that's just what I'm pointing out to you again. It's just,
So, and I'm not trying to be offensive, I'm just asking. We are in a different world than we were 15 years ago. We don't have the big boxes of this and that going on. We're in a world of Amazon. Most of the things that maybe what you're thinking of wanting to see on this intersection are no longer going to be the type of stores that are going to be available anymore. So I feel as though I think quality of life is a reason for living in a community.
absolutely correct.
And I feel as though what I was presenting are issues that resolve quality of life desires. I mean, whatever these retailers are, they provide a quality of service. They provide jobs. What if the only value is return on investment? I don't know what investment is the best, highest value, but you have a city that's the second largest city in all of Milwaukee County, Milwaukee being the largest city of them all.
Correct.
So when you're looking at how many different Targets could be there in the city or whatever stores, they don't all have it to be, I mean, the pool and tennis idea was really, truly more of a gift for me to the city, because it may not have the high value that you're thinking this area needs, but I feel as though it's locationally in a good location for future growth to the southwest area of the city. It's certainly a location that could be conveniently available if we could connect it to the bike path and such. You could be pulling people all the way further north into Greendale even. It would be a type of service that I think is going to be, the people want to be amongst their friends and so forth and their families. They live around their children and so forth. This may not be the highest use of the property. Maybe, and I apologize if I'm not quite understanding. If you like this, it's not at this location. Is that what you're trying to say?
Correct.
Well, and on that, listen, I'm not sold on saying that this is not going to be a financially, as you mentioned, 3.5 months. How much money am I supposed to expect to earn on something like this? It's not going to be a high return on my investment either. This is truly.
Well, Jim, you know that.
Well, I guess my vision for what I thought, I mean, this is going back years, decades, when I think about when we, as a family, my father represented creating an R3E zoning, and I got pushback back in the early 80s or early 90s for that, saying, who the hell would build houses like that in Franklin? I think we've always tried as a family to invest in this city. My father was the one that brought Tuckaway Country Club to Franklin. I mean, I feel as though times change and things will evolve in different ways, but I don't see how this is a negative, a black eye on the city to think that if you're thinking if there's 2 more corners that will fill the demand that you're hoping to generate at this area, they certainly do exist. We're not, but this
Well,
is
Jim,
a.
let's let some of the other aldermen talk.
Okay.
You and I have had this conversation, so I just needed to put it on the record. Alderwoman Hanneman and then Alderman Mayor.
Thanks. I'll take the ball since your property
And
is
then
in
Alderman Barber.
my district, so welcome, thank you. It's good to see you again, and Franklin, I have heard for so long, well, the 25 years that I've been here, why don't we have a swimming pool? Why don't we have a swimming pool? So my question, I want a little more specifics about the pool and tennis club. Is it something that will be widely available to the majority of the residents in Franklin? Is it a private membership club? Or is this something that is financially feasible for the majority of the community to enjoy?
To answer your question, in order for any of these projects to work, it's a club membership. So the club membership is the facet that affords something like this. Now, as a city, if you are interested, I mean, again, I'd be more than happy to consider this being a public space that I would give a very, nice value price for you guys to own it. And then it could be a public property. But for a private, it would be a private club.
Well, because I'm looking at the tennis courts and the pickleball courts, that solves a lot of needs in the city, because we know our high school doesn't have tennis courts for the teams to practice on and have their meets. They split their times between Tuckaway and the Village Club in Greendale. So I'm wondering if even under your ownership, would you, and this is way out of my wheelhouse because I'm speaking for the school district, but would you be willing to entertain an MOU for the high school to use those courts, during their seasons?
I mean, there wouldn't be a reason if, first of all, if let me put it this way. I don't know how to answer the question. I would love to say yes, because frankly, I mean, high school is where I started playing too. So I would love to say yes. I mean, however, what if I have club members who are wishing to play and it's not available because the high school is using it?
Tuckaway has the same issue, so does,
Yeah, well,
Village Club, for that matter.
yeah, so I would love to come up with an answer that maybe can work. I mean, I
maybe I'm getting
suggest,
a little ahead of myself on that, but,
so, and I'm not being silly about the proposal, that I'm more than happy if the city was interested in creating their own park system. I wouldn't be gouging by any means what I think I would be willing to do for this parcel if the city wanted to take it over as a public area. Because you're right. That's the whole reason I considered it, was because I think this community could use a pool. Unfortunately, the only way for me to make it happen is if I have a means to get money to afford to have it.
have you by chance talked to the county about any of their properties and availability?
Many years ago, many years ago, who knows, maybe they have changed of heart, but even when MMSD, which was coming in with the sewer, they were not allowed to come through the county property. So in the few times I responded or reached out to them, they've always said no.
And I know times have changed a lot since then financially and with leadership, so, and I'm not entirely against the location for this. I'm just trying to reconcile in my mind, from a business model standpoint, I would think those parcels where the pool and tennis club is would be more valuable to you with commercial development. And maybe not.
You're right,
That's
actually.
just my initial thought.
No, it's actually, I don't know another developer that's trying to take commercial property and make it into a park setting. So you're absolutely right. If I would do this, I suppose the most financial idea would just to say, this is future commercial development. So, I mean, I spent the money that I did to have the renderings and such done because it's just a personal desire in my own heart, thinking this is a good idea for the city. But truly, you're right. Maybe the value of this is best to consider it being commercial.
No, and I'm not saying one way or another, I like the idea of pool and tennis club. I think there's a need and a demand for it in Franklin. And I like the concept in terms of, bank, gas station, convenience store, because the growing subdivisions to the south along Oakwood and west of 76th Street, you know, they'll want some of those amenities and conveniences. So in that regard, it does make sense to me. I have a small personal request in the concept. I would love to see that corner, a dedicated space carved out for the Holterman's Corn Stand in the summer. I'd hate to see that go away. It's such a treasure. Everybody loves going there. It's kind of a Franklin thing, and it's part of the character, I think, of that corner. So I would love to just see a little something there to keep that. I know it's silly, but.
Well, the only problem is the state DOT won't like that idea.
Well.
For access reasons.
Put it somewhere.
All right?
Let's try to move it along a little bit. Alderman Mayor, then Alderman Barber.
Okay, I'll be quick. Alderwoman Hanneman already questioned my number one question of if it's a private or public club, and you've essentially answered that it would be a tuck-away, basically, for tennis. The restaurants, I would like to see a restaurant there. We've been promised restaurants in other developments that just never materialized. I know you have had success with restaurants, and maybe you can bring something there. As far as storage goes, you know, storage is successful just about anywhere it goes up these days. I don't know if it's the right place right on Ryan Road, but restaurants, storage, I think are good things. Not necessarily on the road, but are you going to be looking for any TIF money?
I had not planned on TIF money.
Okay, we'll leave it at that.
We're not offering.
No, we're not offering, right. That's it, thank you.
Alderman Barber.
Would your fee structure be more like Tuckaway or Greendale?
It would be more than Greendale. Greendale's facilities are definitely, time-wise, they're just a square rectangle type pool that doesn't have any food or such. They have the fire pits where you can bring in your food and kind of picnic when you go. So it would be probably a hybrid. There's actually a pool and tennis club. I was kind of modeling this off of. It's in Elm Grove. It's called Elmbrook. And it's a beautiful club. The restaurant is actually a very nice higher-end type dining type restaurant and such. And the fee structure is actually exactly like Tuckaway's then. And so that's kind of the basis I came off of, using that club as my guinea pig of what I think. And they have it's a community club that has been there for probably 50 years, I bet.
And then the follow-up question would be, how committed are you to making this green space as well as family-friendly, on-site, and then in the future maybe connecting to that path, to the river?
I think it would be wonderful to connect to the river pathway.
Are you committed to working to get that done?
Actually, I don't know that I can show you a record, but I was one of the very first people that, before it was in Franklin, that was the first donor for the one that went in here in Franklin. I was at the ceremony when they were putting the shovel in for building it, and I had made a donation for that to happen. So, yes, I'm already committed in the idea of a pathway, and if it means somehow to invest in it, I believe I'd be a investor of, not investor, but donate. I would donate to it, I should say.
And what about on-site? Family-friendly, green space? What's your commitment there?
I mean, the question I think you're asking about the park, I mean, green space, if there's going to be more of, let's call it green space for other things, this area, there's not enough room left to add maybe more park setting type things, but we are buddied up to the Milwaukee County Park System. I'm sure if the design was to come and say, listen, we're already investing in this beautiful bike trail to come over this direction, which continues maybe all the way over into Muskego, having this be a central area. I mean, there is land there that's not in a floodplain and such that could be, it is park land too. So it seems to us that we pay taxes to Milwaukee County. Can utilize land that's zone park could be a nice use of the land.
Alderman Nelson.
Mr. O'Malley, thank you for coming and putting on this presentation. One of the questions I have, and I do like the project, like the concept, speak a little bit to the type of restaurant you want to have. It's going to be open year-round, because we've got another project that was going to be a big part of another project we have invested in. It's having a lot of difficulty getting something off the ground. And I think in this area, you know, I'm directly across the street, and so we have a lot of challenges with, there's nothing out there that way. We have a large residential development that's going to be popping out over here, so there's going to be a demand. So do you have any sort of, what sort of idea do you have for that year-round restaurant, and what type, you know?
Well, it's a club restaurant, meaning a membership restaurant. So it's not an open, maybe the concept you had is available to the general public. This probably doesn't fit the design of what you're
Okay.
asking.
Then I have a follow-up on that.
Sure.
So if you're going to go off the Elmbrook model,
Yes.
you know, as far as fees are concerned, I know we're looking at Greendale, that what they've got going, pretty antiquated, very busy. Doesn't have the amenities that you're speaking of. Now, if you move to that amenity fee scale, that's where I get a little cautious with our residents who should be able to benefit from this. Somewhere in the middle between an Elmbrook and a Greendale. Is that what your thought is?
You know, the clubs in general are not necessarily, I'm not making this into that Life Center type club that's over in Brookfield. That's got all the amazing amenities. It is more of a country club idea, is really what I'm trying to say. It's more of a country club idea. Now, I do believe that the city has there's definitely a demand, but yet that pool and tennis that's in Greendale was a developer that just put it in, and but it was supported by the developer developing all the neighborhoods that funded to that too. So he had a means to have a price point, and today, you know, there's no basis left. The cost of that thing's been paid for probably decades since now. So there's just the maintenance costs of that thing today.
Thank you.
Alderman Mayor.
So I might have misinterpreted something. So the only restaurant would be in the club, in the tennis club. None of the buildings on Ryan would be restaurants.
No, these are lots that are large enough that could house whatever restaurant you see in Oak Creek, in effect. It could be and it was that I was intentionally making this, wasn't going to be subdivided initially, because what if I have a larger restaurant? Maybe it was
Don't use a name, Jim. If you use a name, it'll be all over the internet, and then you're committed.
Okay. It's a good club, or a good bar. But whatever that restaurant might be, if they needed more space, this lot line isn't fixed yet. It could be here. It could allow for, this could be not 3 lots, but 2, because it would matter, it would match to the demand of that restaurant. I believe, you know, a restaurant right now is looking at a number of things. They're looking specifically at growth of a market. They're looking at the accessibility. They're looking at the traffic. They're also looking at, visibility and so forth. This certainly would attract that for that purpose. Without making an investment, building this road, just like building a new subdivision, it's nearly impossible to market what's here until this is actually improved. Once that's improved, it draws that attention that there's the location. I could be building something.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Alderman Dender, and then Alderman Will.
Well, I'd like to give you kudos for thinking out of the box. A little concerned about clubs, because clubs in this area have struggled. We're talking about many of the golf country clubs have had to merge with other organizations for survival in itself. Okay? And I'm sure you're aware of that. BCC, Triple I, Milwaukee Country Club, you know. So you know, a little concerned about a club concept, because Tuckaway has struggled too.
It's interesting. Did you know there's only 2 country clubs in the state of Wisconsin at fully occupied membership? Tuckaway and Shaniqua Country Club. They're the 2 country clubs in the state.
And that was with a major push in the last 5 years that they've done that. Otherwise, they
Well,
weren't.
all the country clubs are working on increasing those memberships, but
Oh, sure,
Franklin or Tuckaway is the only country club on the south side. When you talk about Triple I, you're talking about all these other ones. They were all on the north side, so they were competing with each other.
True, true. I'm just, did you do a market analysis to make sure that your cost, your cost points are going to be justified? I'm not necessarily against it. I just want to make sure that the due diligence was done, that this would be a successful project, because as you alluded, you're putting a lot of money into it, okay? And we, you know, I like what I see. The pool area, I would think if you added another dimension of having some swim lanes so you can get actual.
Well, this doesn't show it well, but these are swim lanes
There
in
are
here.
swim lanes? Okay.
This is a zero.
A 0-2.
Walk. This has 2 water slides that come down into the pool area.
Okay, okay. So.
The color renderings look much better.
Okay, good, because swim lanes would be very attractive to triathletes, people that have the disposable income to want to be able to join this club. So I'm looking at who are going to be your users in all of this. Okay, yes, does Franklin have the per capita income and the projection on house growth to be able to help support this project? I believe, yes, we're definitely going in the right direction, okay? A layout, design, some of the concerns that were out there, some of the upfront outlots. Hey, this is a concept review. You know, I was tossing it up and down, okay, in regards to am I favored, am I not in favor? One thing that I'm also concerned about is you're from this area, you don't live here, and I'm concerned about some of the other parcels that you own, and that they also need some attention. And so you want my full support. I also want some additional support from you to let's figure out what we can do with some of the other properties that you own in the city to help beautify it.
You know, I'd like to answer that thought that you have.
Sure.
I'm in a family that I've absolutely done 0 deals with my father, real estate transactions. I've bought real estate, but I've never developed anything with my father. My father is still works 7 days a week, and because he does, he has his own staff. I have my own staff. But of course, most people assume that we're a father-son. We're our own company. He actually has his company. I have my company. My father doesn't own this property. I own this exclusively by myself. All right? Any other property you're thinking about in Franklin, I have 0 control of whatsoever. Now, there will be a day, sadly, how it happens, that I will be in charge of those properties. But I really don't have the authority, or will I have the authority until something of that nature happens. So I apologize, I can't do more for you.
Well, I appreciate the candor and the honesty. And yes, someday down the road, maybe we'll cross that road, that bridge.
Perfect.
And then we'll address it at that time. With you under this ownership, okay, I look forward to see where we go with it.
Excellent.
So, Jim, it's important that people know that. So it's good that you said that.
Mhm.
Alderman Wilhelm.
Yes, it has been.
So, well, I'm wondering about the feasibility of the outdoor pool. You think that's really,
Well, okay, so is it a question if it fails, it now is, it goes into bankruptcy and it's for sale and that? Or are you concerned about me personally, Wilhelm?
I-
Kristen, I mean.
I just think
We're gonna say both.
I guess I would say an indoor pool might be more appropriate than an outdoor pool, so
You know, that would be easy, but I'm not looking to, yes, this is a seasonal idea. But Tuckaway does go ahead and has an outdoor, not an indoor too. Same as Greendale doesn't have an out, or indoor also. The club that you maybe could use already exists in the city is the Innovative. They've got an indoor pool. This is a social club. It's not so much of a health club, let's say. It's a place that you end up seeing friends that are, becomes cheers. You see each other and so forth.
that's good.
It's that's bad. Don't use that word. I didn't use that one.
Okay,
But-
so I guess I'm kind of lukewarm on the whole thing. There are aspects I like. It is a very important corner in Franklin. I guess
Truly, this is a good meeting to have
right now,
because
it's hard to think of anything really exciting. We're all sitting around with masks. And so it's kind of hard to think where everything is going right now. So I appreciate your courage and, bringing something forward in these trying times. I guess I got a little, deflated when I thought you said you wanted to bring something to Franklin, and I thought we would finally have some public amenities. And my first thought was, like Alderwoman Hanneman said, partnering with the county to take your amenities and make it more public and open up that for more business development for yourself.
And I am making an offer that if you really would like to do something like that, I'm very interested in letting you know that I would be happy to work with the city of Franklin to consider this as a public development. And the city, of course, would be able to have it in any way that they wish to operate it then.
So I'm going to tell you, wait around for item 12. Excuse me 1 second. And then I'm going to say, call me tomorrow. No, call me on Thursday, okay?
Okay. So,
But wait around for item 12.
all right.
Alderman Wilhelm still has the floor.
And so I noticed that this says you put this in for application on June 4th. So it's been 3 months. And the pickleball area would have been nice to know about. But what kind of time frame, now that we're already 3 months into this from your application date, what kind of time frame were you hoping for?
Well, the reason it got postponed a little bit is I got married on July 10th.
Congratulations.
And I was given a little
Stephanie's smiling, I can
step
tell.
in when it got on the agenda. As far as the timing on things, certainly I wouldn't make any investment in developing any of the roads until next spring. It's too late in the year to make any improvements to the site. Frost is going to be coming and so forth.
Right.
And as far as the concept, mine at this meeting was to make a decision, or to find out, I shouldn't say. But if I'm going to move forward with this, I'm looking, I'm serious. I've never actually done this before where I've had a concept review before. So what I'm looking for is feedback is the concept I'm drawing here the look that you feel is the best way to develop it? If this land here is not to be a pool and tennis, but be commercial, I honestly, the reason this became pool and tennis is I struggled with what retail is out there that would need this much land. We're in a different world today. We're just not where we, were 15 years ago. So I paid, $12,000 for a drawing to show me what a pool and tennis club would look like. And now I am at a point where I believe the idea of the self-storage is a fabulous use for the city. And certainly it is my primary business. I developed that throughout Wisconsin. I've sold my last one that I've developed, but in Wisconsin, but in North Carolina, I continue to develop them. And this concept is really a terrific, now, as I said, this is what's being shown for where I have it. This is where, as an alternative option that I looked at. But as I mentioned earlier, it limits the opportunity for what this could be. If I've built here, this builds a box. So, but I know that, in Franklin, we've wanted services, and these parcels this will be the start of getting one of those services. Quality of life is services. Getting service and that Franklin is desperate for some kind of a restaurant or restaurants, not even restaurant. Myself coming down here, I was thinking, which restaurant should I be eating at tonight before I came here? And so I want to encourage it. I think this is a great site to encourage it. So I truly do think that Franklin deserves so much for the community. It's what makes the community grow is quality of life.
Well, I guess I would ask you to continue talking with the Alderwoman and see where it goes.
Jim, I didn't do this, and I apologize. I usually give a little speech before concept review.
Mm-hmm.
The reason we do it in front of the so I'll give the pre-speech post, okay?
Okay.
The reason we do this before the Common Council is we used to just have you do this sometimes in front of the Plan Commission, and it got sometimes that the Plan Commission would give some direction to a developer that didn't quite align with the Common Council, and we found that the developer would go off and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on plans, and it would get to the Common Council and not necessarily get a warm approach. In other words, a no, and we didn't find that to be fair to the developer. So, the change was made probably 10 years ago, Kristen, probably, to offer the developers 15 minutes or so. We've now been almost an hour with you, but we do that out of respect for you because you're family.
I'll be waiting for that Christmas gift.
You didn't get last year's? Anyway.
Must be that U.S. Postal.
So we cannot give you a definitive, we love it, we hate it. We can give you nebulous answers so that you can take from the meeting what you feel is where we're at.
Okay.
'Cause we can't tell you, move that there and that there and that there. So you got to figure out what we want. But I go back to what I just told you. Call me on Thursday, I got an idea for you.
All right. Well, listen, I'm sorry, did anybody else have questions they want to ask?
Thank you, Mr. O'Malley.
All right, guys, thank you so much.
Congratulations again. I'm very happy for you. We're all happy for you.
All right, thank you so much.
Jim.
Yeah. What? No, I don't. I'll get one.
So thank you very much. This should be a quick one. Move on to G6. Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it. G6 is an ordinance amend Unified Development Ordinance to allow for accessory structures greater than 1,200 square feet in floor area subject to special use approval. Alderman Nelson.
So moved.
Second.
You did have your mic on anyway. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Go forth and build your structures. Thanks for your patience.
Thank you.
G7 is authorization to allow DPW to purchase radar message signs for the safety of our road crews.
Move to approve.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. For the record, Alderman Hanneman, seconded without her microphone turned on. G8 is a request from the Parks Commission for the Common Council to approve the concept site plan for Pleasant View Neighborhood Park. Alderman Wilhelm.
Oh, this has been a long time coming, so I guess our job is pretty much to please most of the people with the least tax money. And as you all know, we each represent about 6,000 residents. And District 3 has one active park. It's a tot lot. in Glen Meadows. That's where I raised my kids, in that neighborhood. District 3 lost their baseball field that was in Glen Meadows about 20 years ago. And Pleasant View Park was purchased to bring that baseball field back. It was, as they say, the promise to the district. We're going to buy this land. We're sorry we're taking your baseball field out of this park, but you will have one. Only recently has that ball field been put in with what's called the multi-use field. And as you've watched baseball, you know it's not just go on the field. There's always another group warming up, throwing a ball. So the multi-use field is actually part of the whole baseball concept that was asked for. So I've been the district alderperson for quite some time. I was even involved back in about 2006 when Pat Meehan laid out the very first design for Pleasant View Park, which includes pretty much everything that we've been talking about. It's also a Pleasant View needs list. This came out in 2015. Playfield, the 3 tennis courts, ice skating area, picnic area, pretty much everything that's almost all installed there now. Then I only had this utility plan, but this is Grafe's 2000, it says 14, but actually was approved for the plan in 2015. If you look at the 2015 plan, it's nearly identical to what we're talking about 5 years later. The multi-use field is showing on here, the parking lot, the roundabout, the trail, the baseball field, the tennis courts, the pavilion, everything we're talking about. So this is what, after many public hearings and meetings, this is what the residents for this neighborhood park have been begging for, and this is what we've been telling them. So to get us to the point today, we took pretty much this plan and added pickleball courts to it at the tune of $144,000. That's what we're at right now. Could have built other courts with that. But the process was moved along quite a bit, and this is the survey that I emailed to the alderman because it wasn't in the council packet. It also wasn't in the plan commission packet. And the reason why I'm pointing this out is because we're making a decision based on a survey for a neighborhood park that actually went citywide. And even citywide survey, baseball fields, highest, 62%. That's shown on this graph here. The next highest that's actually not on this graph is the multi-use field. That came in at 60%. The next highest is basketball courts. That came in at 57%. And we're not doing any of those. They actually requested 2 to 4 courts. And those aren't going in at all. Volleyball courts came in at 52%, actually tied with pickleball courts. And they want, for volleyball courts, people wanted 2 to 4 courts. We're putting in 1 that was if it fits. The mayor wants an ice skating. That was actually in the original plans. It was in all the other plans. It can be put on the multi-use field, but the problem is the pickleball courts are going to be on top of the multi-use field, which is the second highest thing that was asked and actually supports the highest thing that was asked even though this went citywide, the pickleball courts still did not come out as the highest in the area. So I feel like 4 courts are tough on the budget. I don't know if everyone's been out there to see that the brand-new tennis court is cracking and breaking apart. The brand-new pavilion doesn't have the landscaping in, which is what I talked about, almost a year ago. The building permit was August 2019. We're in September 2020. There's still no grass out there. The downspouts aren't done. The water is undermining the brand-new foundation of the building that hasn't even opened up yet. We have budget, we have repairs, we have DPW staffing, we have needs, and I feel as if we can give the people pickleball courts. I just feel the request is a little overwhelming. So I think the 4 courts is a bit more budget friendly, but it still impacts the multi-use field, which also impacts what the mayor wanted as ice skating rink, and takes away from the highest 2 uses, multi-use field and the baseball. But it seems to be the best compromise. Let the people have what they've asked for, let them have the 2 highest needs, partially impact what they ask for. That doesn't sit probably too well as me as their alderperson. But I also understand there's pickleball needs that have cropped out recently. So I think that 4 courts is all I can do in good conscience without ignoring the needs of the majority based on survey, based on years of planning. So if there is not any objection, and I don't want to waste a lot of time because we've been here a long time, I would like to move to accept the Pleasant View Master Plan with 4 pickleball courts, altering the trail linkage to connect to the existing trail versus the parking lot, and reduce the parking to reflect the reduction of the courts. I'm looking at the drawing right in front of you on page 157, G8. It has a hand-drawn arrow that connects the 2 trails together. Well,
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
well, this is what was suggested by the Plan Commission. No, I'm talking about, you asked me about the trails. You said, is that really where you want the trail to go? Right.
You said 4 pickleball courts.
Yes.
Plan Commission was for 6.
Right.
Which is the black square.
Correct, and I'm saying 4 there. There's 6 there. I'd say 4. We can still get the multi-use field to be a little bit bigger. It's still going to be impacted. It will still move the ice skating closer. Yep.
Remove 2 end ones.
Right.
I'm not saying that's how they figured to black.
Right. So it would be, the arrow is correct on the drawing in front of you. The removal of what the Plan Commission removed is the bottom X2 courts. And then the side courts on the diagram show 6. I'm making that 4 to leave more room for the multi-use trail. And then because you would have a few less, you would reduce the parking just a little bit for that.
Okay, the reason I question you on the trail connection is because if you do it the way that arrow is,
Yes.
there's no connection. It's kind of a roundabout connection to the parking lot. So were I wanting to go northwest, it's not really a make sense connection to go northwest.
No.
My
I
thought
think-
would be that you would connect the trail to the northwest corner of the parking lot.
The trail is connected,
Similar to the way it is now, but just drag it down to where you're cutting off the parking lot.
I don't really care how they connect the trail to the park.
I don't care.
The
I
thing
do, but I
is,
don't.
the plan commission did not want the people walking through the parking lot to get onto the trail. So they said, take the existing trail and just connect the existing trail to the new trail across the grass, and don't take it through the parking lot. However, Grafe wants to design that to make that happen, I'm okay with that.
Madam Clerk, can you redact your motion, please? For a better look at the drawing, it's on page, it's not on a page number.
157.
Page 160, it would be 164. If you cross off the bottom box of pickleball courts and then just remove 2 from the far right. Madam Clerk.
Alderwoman Wilhelm moved to accept the Pleasant View Master Plan with 4 pickleball courts, altering the trail linkage to connect to the existing trail versus the parking lot, and reduce the parking to reflect the reduction of courts. Seconded by Alderman Nelson.
No, sir, we don't accept public comment. Alderman Nelson, under discussion, Alderman Nelson.
Under discussion, Alderman Wilhelm and I, talked about some other areas and what we were just thinking out loud as far as where to put this, so we're not shortchanging the pickleball and the pickleball demand in our community and how fast it's growing. And what I think we would like to look at, or if you would, Alderwoman, kind of, instead of we're not just taking, there was other plans and other discussions of where something could be put in the future or recommended to be put.
Absolutely. Fully supportive. I'd like to give them everything they want, but I'd like to see it in a spot where it can all be together, because if they ever want to grow at this spot, it's just not doable. And putting in 6 to 8 just causes way too much. I was out there and I took a picture of the fence. There's hardly any room between the pavilion and the fence. If you want to have picnic tables and people standing outside and, a pavilion to rent out 100, it's just not feasible. It's just too tight. It's just all pickleball courts. And we could do this. We've got some ideas. We've been talking about it, so I think we can make it happen.
Thank you, Mayor. And I want to thank everyone here who has reached out to me over the past few days. I've had countless emails and telephone calls, and if I haven't responded to you personally yet, I'm sorry. I've had a lot of calls, but I do try to respond personally, and do know that I've read everything that you've sent me and listened to messages. That being said, I've heard from lots of different sides and opinions on the pickleball courts at Pleasant View Park. And I'll reiterate what I said at the Parks Commission meeting last night. I feel, and I'm rather new to this process with the pickleball at Pleasant View Courts, or Pleasant View Park. I know it's been going on for quite some time, and patience is running out. I hear you and understand you. I feel that we are still trying to put a square peg into a round hole. And what I've heard from a majority of pickleball players is that an 8-court facility would be ideal to have your tournaments. So as I'm thinking through this, if we were to approve this tonight, and I'm going to direct my question to the city engineer, if this were to be approved tonight, what in your estimation would be the soonest those courts could be used at Pleasant View Park?
So the next agenda item is for the design. I don't recall the timeline, but I would imagine that we could have construction going on next year, so probably midsummer next year.
So midsummer. So they're looking probably at half of their season yet that they wouldn't have access to those additional courts.
I hate to be too optimistic with everything else going on, but yeah, probably mid to late summer, by the time school starts.
Okay. So that being said, we are also in the process of looking to purchase additional parklands.
We are?
Sooner than later. And I one of the suggestions I had come up with, and I'm trying to investigate, and getting some initial positive response from Milwaukee County, because the tennis courts at Fremming Park, which is in my district, are in deplorable condition. They are heaved, they are dangerous, there's grass growing all over those courts. So I would love to investigate the possibility of maybe leasing that area from Milwaukee County. Could we then use Parks money to put an 8-court facility there? And although you'd still lose half of the summer at Pleasant View Park, would those additional months be worth it to start construction on an 8-court facility that would then be ready to go right away at the beginning of the following spring? I don't know, I'm putting the question out there, but I think it would be a win-win for the people who live near the park and the people who really want a full tournament level facility, because I think they need that. And if they're continuing to grow at the rate that they're growing, you know, 4 or 6 courts at Pleasant View ultimately may not be enough in 2 years.
I'm reminded by the city attorney that's a bit of far from the agenda item.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Then
I apologize
I'll-
for that. I know that we've got people interested in that.
I'm sorry, then I will.
And it's definitely avoiding me getting on my soapbox about investing money in the county facilities when we already spend the 3rd largest tax bill going to Milwaukee County and getting nothing in return.
Well, that's not on the agenda either. Now, don't talk to
And it's
Sharon.
absolutely true. The only benefit we get is we pay Alderman Nelson's salary.
Thank you.
Well, and I've been told by the county that those tennis courts are not going to be on the
See what I
budget till
mean?
2025, so.
That's what I mean. Anyway, okay.
I'm sorry, I'll be
Mayor?
Who asked that? Oh, Alderman Barber. On the motion to approve the park plan. Alderman Barber.
Just a couple just one comment. I want to thank everybody also for sending me emails. I appreciate all your input. I've tried to answer as many as I can right now, given that maybe not all of you have received an answer. But I'm also getting calls from people that are in the area that live there, and they're concerned about the number of courts. Now, they're not here tonight, but they have emailed me, so there's another side to this. I'm in favor of it at some level, and I'm not sure whether it be the 6 or the 4. But there are people that are concerned about their neighborhood and want to make sure that it is preserved as such. So I'm just throwing that piece out there, that there is a balance here that has to be maintained.
No one doubts that.
And just so you all know, too, I too got all of your emails, and I probably got I got a lot. And I read them all on top of my mayoral duties, and part of which is, I hope you all stick around for item 12, which is the budget, which is your tax bill. Did that among other things. So stick around. So anyway, anyone else on the motion? All right, let's go right to a roll call, Madam Clerk.
Alderman Dandria.
Aye.
Alderman Mayor.
Aye.
Alderwoman Wilhelm.
Aye.
Alderwoman Hanneman.
Aye.
Alderman Barber.
Aye.
Alderman Nelson.
Well, the motion carries unanimously. 6 ayes, no noes, no absent, and
Mr. Mayor, can I just make a
no
quick comment here,
abstentions.
Mr.
Alderman
Mayor? For some of the people on this council, I think it's a little disingenuous to be concerned about the neighbors at this point in time for a project that's of a greater good, when we've for years been, many people on this council, not Alderwoman Hanneman, she's new to this, but many of the others have been flipping off the neighbors to another project not too far away. We've said, screw the neighbors on that project, but this project, we're saying, oh, the neighbors matter, they count. Well, the neighbors should always matter. They should have input to what goes on in their neighborhood. This council just needs to decide, everybody on this council needs to decide what's important. Now, we threw the neighbors on that other project the bone a couple weeks ago by siding with them one time in a few years, but for years, we have been flipping them off. So just wanted to remind everyone of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, let's try to remain on the agenda. G9 is a heck of a lot of money for a not real complicated project. It's to authorize the amendment to agreement, the amount of $129,590 for Grafe to design and produce bid documents.
Make the motion. We're gonna get this done. Here comes the pickleball courts.
Is there a second?
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Alderman Nelson.
Aye.
Alderman Barber. Alderwoman Hanneman.
Aye.
Alderwoman Wilhelm.
Aye.
Alderman Mayor.
Aye.
Alderman Dandria.
Aye.
Mayor?
Motion carries, 6 ayes, no noes, no absent, no abstentions. Alderman Wilhelm.
I just want to make this a little bit easier for everyone. The money that we saved by not putting in 13 facility bathroom was a $500,000.
Oh, please.
So, I know it hurts to do this, but it could have been worse.
It's $124,000 for engineering. It's just crazy. And
I-
Glenn, I'm going to meet with you tomorrow to have you explain.
I don't disagree because we had a plan that was already done.
Tomorrow. Item G10, pick your poison here. This is Buckthorn. Do we legislate it out of existence? Or what do you want to do?
Mr. Mayor,
Alderman Mayor on the
I'm-
Environmental Commission.
I move to, looks like Sandy wants to say something.
Madam Clerk.
If you choose to add this to the list of noxious weeds, you would have to amend the municipal code. So if you would like to direct staff to amend the municipal code, that ordinance will come at the next common council meeting.
I would like to move to direct staff to amend the municipal code to add buckthorn to the noxious weed list. We have to remember, this is just like cottonwood. Just because it's on the noxious weed list doesn't mean that we've got armies going out to hunt for it. But when we get a complaint for cottonwood, it has to be removed. This would put buckthorn in the same group. It's not that we're gonna go out hunting for it, but it needs to be removed. And you can take a walk through any area where there's any kind of brush or trees or anything growing, and you'll see buckthorn just coming in and almost taking over, if not already taking over. So something needs to be done, and this is a start. That is my
Second.
motion.
You're doing option 1, right, Alderman Mayor?
I don't have that in front of me. but to
Classify
add
buckthorn
it-
as a noxious
Yes.
weed with the
Yes.
option all buckthorn in the city would need to be destroyed. Alternatively, it would
Yes.
need to be kept cut to a height not to exceed 18
That's what I'm
inches and platted subdivisions, and subject to fines and violations and court and all the rest of that. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. G11, the release of escrow deposit for the public improvements at the Forest View Apartments. Whose district is that? 53 West Forest View Court, 60th North of Rhine. Alderwoman Hanneman.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now for the fun of the evening, and nobody leaves. Close the doors, lock them. Our new wonderful Director of Administration, Peggy Stino, you're on. While Peggy's warming up, tremendous effort by all the department heads and their support staff on Peggy's first budget, but of course Paul did a great deal of the work. The budget numbers as they came to Peggy and Paul and me were really tight. The staff did a great job coming in. And then I commend Peggy and Paul. Some of the creative thinking that the two of them did at that very table was amazing. Sometimes new blood means a lot, and Peggy had some ideas that I thought were phenomenal, working with Paul, and that allowed Paul some creativity that I think was being stifled over the years. So what you find in front of you is a tremendously workable budget, and I look forward to hearing your comments, and off you go, Peggy.
Thanks, Mayor. So before we get started, the presentation that we're going to be walking through tonight is in the front of your budget binder, in case you want to follow through or make any notes, et cetera. And we will have it on the city website tomorrow. So with that, we're pleased to present the budget in draft form from the mayor. And again, just to echo the mayor's comments, everybody here, there's no doubt that everybody is in the right mind and looking out for the community as we're going through this budget. It was very refreshing to be in this kind of an environment, so thank you to everybody. And then again to Paul, he basically did the majority of the work. And not only that, but between him and the mayor, they've spent a ton of hours getting me up to speed on everything Franklin, so I do really appreciate that. So as we move forward and start talking about the budget, I think it's important. We're looking at a financial document, but there's a whole lot more to the budget than just the numbers. And that's basically our roadmap going into 2021. So we'll just talk a little bit about that, some of the priorities that we have. Again, just in conversations with the mayor and the majority of the council members, I've quickly learned what's important in Franklin. And that's obviously a conservative, strong city with excellent finances, great services, and really some good self-restraint on the levy. So I completely understand we are a levy community and not a rate community. And I really do think this budget reflects that. So I think we're really looking out for the taxpayers in this budget while continuing to provide some really good services. Again, we have a lot of challenges. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the challenges. I think you all know what those are. There's a lot of state restrictions, levy limits, expenditure restraint. Sometimes we can count on revenues from the state. Sometimes they get reduced or get stalled. It's just something we need to deal with, and really we've been dealing with for a lot of years. As far as the marketplace pressures, to this organization as well as the city and the regional area and basically the whole country has just been more than we could have ever imagined. I think there's a lot of fear, just so much disruption, and I think that this city as an employer and as a provider of very critical services has done a really good job at that. Certainly our employees stepped up and have done a phenomenal job. We've heard that time and again. I think our citizens and business owners have been as resilient as they can be. And then our partners at the federal and state government. We did have a lot of outreach, a lot of resources made available, and so I guess what I'm trying to say is with all that help, we are projecting a positive 2020 year end. So I think that's to all of those contributors in the process. For 2020, we will talk about a little bit some remainder funds, but I think the question right now is what's 2021 going to look like? We do know there's going to be some reduced revenues. We've been doing a lot of technology planning just in case of future disruptions, et cetera. And I think what's going to happen is it's going to become clearer as time goes on. But I think what we did in this budget is we were pretty conservative just in case of those emergency needs. The budget for 2021 is being recommended fully funded, no planned use of contingency, which I think is really important in a year of uncertainty. I think we have to believe that if things turn south again and we get to some of those more challenging times, like we've seen already this year, that the state and federal government will step in again, and that's also part of our plan. We talked about the surplus. We'll talk about that later. And then, of course, in 2021, if we had to, the emergency use of fund balance would be something we could certainly do. So back to, another, major guiding assumptions that we're talking about: maintaining services, protecting city assets, and using resources responsibly. That's really the bread and butter of what we do. And again, being a service organization, we know that our employees are our largest asset. So what we need to do is we need to be responsive. We need to look at pay and benefits. Obviously, it has to be reasonable. It has to be competitive in the area. And but we have to keep people on the streets performing those services for our citizens. We have not included any new permanent positions in the budget. I know there's been a few positions added in recent years, but we also recognize that our staff needs help. So we do have a couple temporary positions. We have a couple summer positions in the Public Works Parks area. We have some assistance in planning, and then a little bit of assistance in finance, and we think that will help us bridge the gap between some of those expectations and what we can get done with our current staff. Obviously, we're also considering consolidation of services. As Chief Remington stated earlier, really in a metro area like this, we need to look at all of those options all the time. So that's something that's really important. Of course, new technologies. We're doing a rollout right now for BSNA to do the new building inspections, community services modules, and that's going to be a real benefit for the community as well. And then contracting for services when necessary. So then the other thing, and this is sometimes the elephant in the room, but capital spending. Sometimes it's really hard to do capital spending, a lot of money, big infrastructure. But I think what we need to realize is that when we don't do that and we don't consider those important things, we have to worry about what we're doing to maintenance of our buildings, of our roads, impact on deferred maintenance, and what those the non-spending can do to our budget as well. So I just have a little chart up on the screen right now. It talks about our debt. We are, don't get me wrong, we're in a really strong position with regard to our debt. We're at AA2, rated by Moody's, and I took it right out of the rating. This is what they say: a growing wealthy tax base with healthy reserves and liquidity and a modest pension burden. I could give you 20 Moody's reports from similar communities, and you're not going to see this positive of a rating with these comments. This is really a reflection of the community and the values. What we need to do is we need to make sure we carry that into the future. So we have a good, strong debt rating. We have used a lot, as you can see by the screen. We've used a lot of our debt capacity in recent years. The blue line is TIF expenditures. We do obviously have plans in place for those to be repaid, but it's hard because we have to borrow the money up front, and we usually don't get the value until a little bit later on. So we really need to focus on just being very purposeful and very deliberate as we go forward in how we use our capacity. In the budget docs, I have a lot of detail on what's our stated limit from the state, 5% of equalized value, which is like something like $229 million. We're not anywhere close to it, but we have a self-imposed 40% of that limit, and we are getting close in the next couple of years on hitting that capacity. So there's going to be some really tough decisions and discussions that we're going to be having going forward with regard to debt. So not in trouble, not anything bad, just looking to the future that we need to be careful on. In regard to the city's long-term fiscal health, again, very strong fund balance. I think all of you know why we have a fund balance, but a fund balance is really, in our bondholders' eyes, a savings account that they don't ever want us to spend. They just want us to save that money to show that, we are credit worthy. We do have, we're lowering the exposure in case of emergencies do happen. Obviously, it does allow for one-time use, which is something we will be talking about later this year. If you look over at the chart on the bottom corner, if you can see that, we're very close to 30% of our expenditures in our fund balance. That's what our policy says. We should have a range between 20 and 30%, and when we get to the top of that, the policy is really good, and it spells out what we should do with those funds. And those funds are recommended to be used for one-time uses, and I think we might have some of those coming up. We'll talk about a couple of them as we go forward, but being in that position, trying to decide how to use those funds prudently is a really good place to be as far as the city goes in 2021 with that kind of fund balance. So again, something from the community to be very proud of. So we'll just step into a couple of the highlights. Again, you have a 400-page document in front of you. I'm sure you're all going to read it cover to cover, as we did, Paul and I did. But these are just going to be a few of the highlights that come through. First of all, of course, we're maintaining city services, no reductions in staffing in 2021. What that equates to is a levy increase of about $176,000. If you look at the chart, I know it's a little hard to read. I wanted to include those numbers because it's really hard at that magnitude to tell, where the lines go. Yes, it is up $176,000, but in the end, it's all covered by new growth. That means there is not an additional burden on our existing taxpayers that existed before the growth hit this year. So it's basically a net zero impact. Then we get to our tax rates. Again, sometimes when I'm putting these numbers together and looking at them, it's almost not real. Communities of our size, maybe a little bit larger, are looking at $10 and $11 local tax rates, the city portion of the tax rate. Our equalized value, again, we know levy is king, but when you want to compare the city of Franklin to the other cities in the state, the equalized value is the means in which to do that. And when you look at a equalized tax rate that's decreased for the last 7 years, and it's down 13.6% from 10 years ago, that really shows some conservatism, some self-restraint, and it's a good thing. Again, tax rates going down on a regular basis aren't a common thing. So yes, it's a common thing in Franklin, but I do want you to know that someday there is going to be a time where we are going to probably have to talk about increased tax rates. Not today, though. On the assessed rate, we don't have the final assessed rate from the state yet. That's it's just a process that we go through. Board of Review closed a few weeks ago. We submitted all of our final reporting. By the end of October, the state will go ahead and give us what's called the statement of assessment, and that'll have an assessment ratio, which really takes our equalized value and turns it into an assessed value, which is what we do base taxes off of. But the best guess that we have right now is that tax rate is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $5.05 per thousand. Again, a picture's worth 1,000 words. I think the fact that we're able to do this and look at this today is just really something decent. Decrease for the last 6 years, 8.1% decrease in the assessed rate since the 2012 budget. A couple other things we need to talk about. A reduction in shared revenue. There's something called the expenditure restraint. If communities keep their budget increases within a certain dollar amount, qualify for the expenditure restraint. We've done all of that. We've kept our budgets to where they need to be. The problem is in the program, it says that when you get your tax rate under $5, you no longer qualify. So thank you very much for the city of Franklin for doing your part and keeping taxes down, but now the state's not going to share any more money with us. So that's just the nature of that program. Back in 2017, we had about 208,000 annually. In 2021, we're expecting 25,000. And by the time we hit 2022, we don't expect that program to be in existence for us. Now, some communities, our neighbors to the east, perhaps might have been planning for 5 years on how they can exit expenditure restraint and get back in because they can't stay within the limits. That's not where we're at. But someday in the future, perhaps we will be back in the program, and this also is a way to reset that. Again, not that the city needs to. We do have a fully balanced budget, like we talked to before, no planned use of fund balance. We have revenues and expenditures go up and down each year. I do just have a little bit of a list of things, some of the more major ones in the general fund. Our expenditure restraint revenues going down 125,000. Fines and forfeitures, we are expecting to be down a little bit. Our franchise fees that we get from cable TV subscribers going down. There's a adjustment to the personal property aid that's kind of going down double this year, but we'll get half of it back. The state's correcting from last year. And then, of course, we're expecting a little bit of a reduction in room tax. As far as our revenue increases, we keep saying that the economy's got to be strained and things, but what we're seeing on our building permits and our building activity in the community is unbelievable, off the charts. Could be one of our best years in a long time. So people are still doing things in the community, still putting infrastructure in the ground, and that helps everyone in the community, I think, in the long term. A couple of decreases on the expenditure side. And just to be fair, there's 23,000 is the net reduction in expenditures. You might say, how can that happen? People have been telling us for years it's usually an increase. There was a large transfer out last year for some capital needs that was in the levy, so there's 500,000 there. But we have really been looking at expenditures. We've been really trying to allocate costs to the budgets that they belong to. For example, IT is a good example. IT serves all of our departments. We weren't charging any of our IT costs to our utilities. Now, for the most part, our utility ratepayers are our taxpayers, but in some cases they're not. And what we need to do is we need to try to match those revenues and expenditures most appropriately, and those reallocations do that very thing. We do have some suggestions. I'd say some pretty big suggestions on the health insurance fund. We are meeting with the Personnel Committee again on Monday, the 21st, so next Monday, and we're hoping to have a detailed recommendation for the council shortly after that. If we are able to come to a recommendation next week, I will have it at the October 6th meeting. But I think there's just a lot that we're doing with healthcare, and it's not necessarily eroding the benefit. It's changing the way we look at it a little bit more to try to attack our claim costs and our plan costs, and perhaps even, you might even see it as an enhancement of a benefit without increasing the cost, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to get some steerage and get our employees to collaborate with us, a little bit of consumerism, something we've all been talking about for a long time, but I think we're really ripe for that here in Franklin because of the way costs have gone over the last couple of years, which has been super high. Yeah. So then, something else we need to talk about, I think it's a really piece of our 2021 and probably the future 5 to 7 years. We have a lot of very seasoned employees with the city, and we have to do some seasoned. Well, and it's more than that. It's the institutional knowledge. It's all of the experience and things. And so succession planning is going to be something big for us in 2021. The way it relates to the budget mostly is with the number of expected retirements or feasible, possible retirements we're going to have over the next year. We wanted to have a funded reserve in the budget so that we don't have to have long periods of vacancies where we are unable to provide services. So I mentioned a little bit before, staffs are really tight. We're expecting a lot out of our employees at all times, but when they have to go with 4 and 5 vacancies at any given time, it's just something's going to break. So this reserve was something we thought was pretty important. Again, this next slide, the next statement is just really about the plan costs, looking at what we can do with the health insurance benefit. We are recommending the hotel motel tax be adjusted from 6% to 8%. In 2021, that would only impact our tourism budget. Because of the way the formulas work at the state level, it would bring in approximately, based on 2019 projections, or 2019 actuals, because we had to throw 20 out for COVID, we're thinking about 121,000. However, as more hotels come online and more room tax gets collected, that's where we're going to see the increase on the general fund side too. So there are some swings for the general side. Talked about this a little bit earlier, but borrowing, and we talked about where our debt has been over the last couple of years. In 2021, right now, we have $16 million of planned borrowing. $2 million for our capital needs. That's part of an established plan every other year, which I think is very needed with our aging infrastructure. And then there's another $9 million for TIDS, infrastructure and incentives, $3 million for that sewer lift station, and then $2 million for the water debt for the new water tower, which we've been talking about recently. So again, we just have to be very mindful as we move forward and make sure that we know what we're doing with our borrowing. No solid waste fee change. I know there was a fee change in the recent history. Nothing for 2021 is projected. We are anticipating a sewer rate increase. Paul's working on that right now, amount to be determined, but we definitely think that's coming in 2021. Another thing, our Unified Development Ordinance, we do have funds in, quite a bit of funds, about $150,000 for a major update. To my knowledge, this is the first time in many, many years that this is being undertaken, and it'll definitely be a good thing for the city as we move towards that goal. And then again, a lot of capital items, again, they're all in the details, too many to mention, I may forget, but spending on capital equipment, streets, parks, we're doing some spending at parks, and then our facility infrastructure. So one of the things when we talk about infrastructure, and that kind of leads us down to our operational focus, we really need a plan to address citywide aging infrastructure. So we have a fire department, a library, police station, fill in the blank. There's all these separate places, and we really don't have a cohesive plan to first of all, just keep track of what everything is. So we know what the problems are, because the more unknown failures we have, the more it's going to burden our finances. So what I would be projecting or recommending for 2021 is we just do a 5-year capital improvement program. And what that would do is that would get all of our assets on record, help us with our street planning and all of that. Kind of like when you're working with investments and you ladder them, we want to ladder our aging infrastructure replacements in the same way. So that's something we would be working on. And the city actually already got a really good start to that in 2020 when Industrial Roofing came in and did the survey. So it'll be a springboard for us to go on to that. Obviously, we're talking about it a lot, has been going on for a number of years. The city's future water source, we're expecting activity in 2021 as well. Talked about this a couple times, attracting and maintaining a high-quality workforce, super important. The succession planning, again, always continuing to review our pay and benefits as well as what our comparable cities are doing, where the market pinches are, what are the high-demand positions, and how do we need to go about recruiting and attracting new employees. There is one thing that we're not really doing right now, and that would be the merit pay element. We approved a classification and compensation study back in, I believe, 2015 for implementation in 16, and it has an element of merit pay in it. However, it's never been implemented. So the way that works is anybody that was here prior to that, and they were perhaps grandfathered in over the 65% rate, they can get over it. But anybody else coming in, they're basically frozen at that 65%. It's okay, we bring somebody new in, bring them in at a lower place in the schedule, that's acceptable. But when we get to those mid-career people that are finally just hitting their stride and doing what we need them to do, that's where we're starting to lose people. So I think this merit pay is an important piece. And we're in the public sector. Merit pay doesn't mean something big here. It means something meaningful and something coming from our employer. We do have about $37,000 in 2020 that we're hoping to carry over to use for this initiative in 2021. So there are no new dollars placed in the budget for that. And then, of course, always operating efficiencies and evaluation of services. And I can tell you just from talking to all the departments during the budget process, every department head is doing this on an ongoing basis. Just a couple of our strengths and opportunities, developable land. We have something that a lot of communities don't have. And again, it's about smart growth and it's about making sure that we do things deliberately, but that's a really big benefit, I think, for us going forward. Same thing with funding of capital items. There aren't many communities with a landfill here that brings in the revenues that we get that we're able to use for capital spending. In fact, the communities that I've worked at for the past 20 years, beginning in 2010 to 12, have not seen one capital item funded through the budget. We're still budgeting about $300,000 of capital outlay in our operating budget, and then we have a fair amount of landfill siting fees that are really helping us with our funding. So as we put our capital plan together, we're expecting those landfill revenues to last 20 to 30 more years, and that will be an important piece of that. We have the impact fees as well. Yes, they're for new improvement, but this community is really good at taking those and coupling them or talking about what our plans are to couple them to make some needed improvements in the community while dealing with the growth. So that's also another strength that we have. The OPEB Trust, again, I can't say enough for Paul. He manages our whole OPEB Trust, which is amazing. But more than that, he's got it funded to a place where it's respectable is the best word I can think of. There's usually one place in the state that fairly funds their retirement costs, and that's always WRS, until I came here and I saw this OPEB Trust. But what I will say is part of that is being opportunistic. So when we have extra funds, it would be nice, and that's something we'll be looking at the end of 2020, if we have some remainder funds and we're where we need to be in fund balance, it might be good to make a deposit to our OPEB Trust just to get a little bit ahead and not be behind the 8 ball next time we have a market call or something happens with the investment market. And then our Public Works pension plan, again, very strong position. We don't think that needs actually any contributions at this point. Couple other operating budgets, small. You all know what these are: civic celebrations, the 4th of July celebration, the St. Martin's Fair over Labor Day. hopefully those events are going to be back in 2021.
No.
It's one of those community amenity things. It's not all about dollars and cents.
Thank you. Feels good. No interdepartmental building.
Come on, chief, stick up for the fair.
And, and then we do have a health grant account, and that's the Volition Franklin, the alcohol, tobacco, and drug prevention, which is an amazing community-wide initiative that's also going very well. Talked a little bit about the insurance fund. We will be having some recommendations after the meeting on the 21st, but we do think there's a lot of good things in store for that for both the city and the debt service fund. I think I've talked about that enough. One good thing that Paul does as well on the debt service fund is he tries to keep a level amount of tax levy needed for debt payments, debt repayments. And it does take some creativity and finesse to do that, but what it does is it allows us to not have operating levy issues in those years where debt service would go up. So that fund balance that's being used for that is a good source of that. Of course, we have multiple funding sources for our debt, some more stable or immediate than others, water and sewer, and then TID is just the one that we need to be mindful of. We do have an expected debt shortfall in TID 5. However, I will confirm with you that we talked to the developer, and that is indeed planned to be paid. So I know we had some communication on it at previous meetings. I just wanted to make sure I shared that with you.
We had forecast that over a year ago and had alerted the developer to it, so they included it in their plans. And we did flash that to the Finance Committee in June of this year that there would be a shortfall this coming year.
And he's covering it, right? Yeah, and I guess, like I said, I keep mentioning TIDs, but what we have to remember is if things could go forward without TID, it wouldn't exist. So we all know, I think, that there's a bit of risk involved with all of these investment deals that we're doing. So again, just something to be mindful of as we move forward. So back in June, the council approved a change in the budget ordinance so that Finance Committee would be reviewing the budget. Paul set up 4 meetings for them to review it, breaking down all different pieces of the budget at different times. We're happy to see 3 members of the council on that committee because I do think that really helps a lot when we talk so many details at that level. But certainly the rest of you, welcome to attend. We would love to have you there. But those are the meetings that we have coming up.
And those meetings be 4 p.m., for example, is kind of tough to make. Will they be recorded or?
It's audio. I believe they're audio recorded.
They are audio recorded, have been for quite some time.
So audio, not video.
There's no video at that.
And the reason, their meetings are usually at 6 p.m., but they just decided to go earlier for these just because of the duration, the expected duration. So, but again, if you can't make it to the meetings and you want to call me and get a synopsis of what happened at the meetings, I'm happy to talk with you about that. Then once all those meetings are done, on October 1st is the last one, what we're asking the Finance Committee to do is provide any recommendations that they have for changes to the council at the October 6th meeting. What that will do is that will allow us time to prepare a hearing notice that has to be published on October 28th. Of course, it has to get to the newspaper a week earlier, and then it takes some time to create the notice. So that'll happen on the 28th, and then, of course, we're going to still be talking about the budget from now until November 17th, and we're hoping the council will consider the proposed budget on November 17th so that we can meet all of our statutory deadlines with regards to taxes, et cetera. And anytime, any questions, please ask. I'm here to help. Paul's here to help. Whatever we can do to get to a workable budget for 2021 is our goal. Kind of went through that quick, but questions?
I do have one change about the capital outlay. Under the police department,
258?
That's what I was gonna tell you. Under squad video system replacement, item 11, I need to include that. And it's under footnotes, it's on page 269, I think, the description. Alderman Wilhelm.
On page 316. Under recreation. Mike. 316, under recreation in the budget. Pleasant View Park improvements, design contract was awarded in March of 2020. Isn't that just what we awarded tonight?
You did in fact award a contract tonight, but there was a contract previously awarded in March of this year. So when this document was written, it was referring to the contract that was awarded in March.
Okay, so we want to make sure that this one is in, but here's something that I want Mr. Morrow to be extremely clear on because we've had problems with clarifications. We all know we voted for 4 pickleball courts, right? We're all in agreement. The item number 9 for the contract that we let tonight, the bullet point on page 83 says 6 pickleball. You will be making that amendment to this contract before you sign this, correct? And you will be doing as the motion files for that particular bullet point. I don't want to have any clarifications that you didn't understand that. Don't want to see it going out for bid with 6. Okay. All right. Okay, see.
There's gonna be about 70 emails on all of our email inboxes.
And I know there'll be 20 coming in thanking me. So then, on the same page, it says, construction of 50th Street from Marquette to Minnesota. I don't think it's going to be that length. And then it also, it's only the very stub, so it's only Minnesota to a few hundred feet. I don't know if you want to clarify that. And then it said expected completed in 2020. Well, that's apparently not happening. So that might be expected in 2021, depending on what happens with the next one, which is the Marquette Avenue extensions from Pleasant View to 51st Street. Our motion for that to go out to bid was not actually in August. It actually initially happened in March, the end of March, and then again restated in August. But both of those motions weren't from Pleasant View to 51st Street. The motion was for the 800 feet from 49th to 51st Street. Somehow the project keeps getting added like 570 feet into it. And that's going to make the cost of that road when it comes back to you, if it ever goes out to bid, which has been, I don't know, what, over a month now? We're still waiting for that. Adding on that extra in there is really going to drive the price of that road up. So I wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page with that. And I just opened the budget book tonight, so that's all I have for now. Just want to make sure on those.
Any other questions on the budget? Okay, we got some reading to do. Seeing that, let's move on to G13. There is no motion. Is there a motion to forward the mayor's budget to the Finance Committee for its review and submission of recommended changes to Common Council at their meeting of October 6th, and further provide direction to staff as appropriate?
I make that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That was resounding. Motion carries. G13, proposal by Shelley Tessmer for dog
Oh, Shelley, you're
park.
so patient.
Yes.
So now we've got an issue here. Hold on, Shelley. Because we don't let outside parties into closed sessions. Well, I wasn't, I was actually talking to myself. I'm part Swedish, and that's. Shelley, I was talking to myself. We don't allow, and I don't know why we're gonna go into closed session, frankly.
Wait, what?
I'm talking to myself, but
Oh,
kind of
okay.
to you too.
She was in closed session at the park, she knows everything, she said, went work.
But-
Oh, Robert's Rule of Orders, whatever you need. I need to step
Hold
out,
on.
or?
No, hold on,
Okay.
hold on. I don't know why we would need to go into closed session,
No.
unless we're talking about purchase of land, but let's talk about the purpose and use and that general discussion, and then we can decide later, so. Okay, so you want to do a dog park at the Superfund site?
Correct, that Menards owns, and it's my understanding it's been vacant for.
First, do the Shelley Tesmer from your address, and we'll go from there.
Okay, I'm Shelley Tesmer. Nice to meet you all. Thank you for having me.
address?
6809 South 27th Street, Franklin. The site is a 11.45 acre parcel that is completely fenced in. It's, my understanding it's been vacant for a couple decades, maybe two. And it collects normally like litter and whatnot. And I thought it would be a great idea to put a dog park there because dogs barking wouldn't be heard or annoying residents at this particular location. There's a sidewalk right to the location that residents could walk their dogs to. Dog parks are somewhat self-funded because they're not a free park. They're a park that produces revenue. Milwaukee County has, I believe, 6 parks already that produce money. And I met with the Parks Commission, and they made a... No, yeah, the city, your city, yes. Parks Commission, and they made a recommendation by motion to bring it to your attention, because they thought the idea was a good idea, but they were starting to get a little bit carried away with, well, can we get a shed? Can we do that? And I'm like, I'm trying to make this as cost-effective as possible. Down the road, possibly, we could. And what I'm looking to do is a trial project. I'm looking to get maybe a minimum of 2-year lease from Menards on the parcel. The parcel, to be cost-effective, would need 2 gates installed, a gated area for smaller dogs, because smaller dogs don't always get along with larger dogs, because for whatever reason, they think they can beat up larger dogs. They don't kind of conflict, so it's kind of good to have another space for them. You guys were talking about those engineering fees, and I'd like to stretch the dollar, so I suggest that we use the Milwaukee County Parks engineering plans and try to use those towards this. And the first one I looked at was Curie Park, and it's completely fenced in. So instead of spending more taxpayers' money on engineering costs, hopefully we could use some of those plans and incorporate them here at this particular site. One of the gentlemen on the board actually works for the county, and he's very well of dog parks. So he was a breath of fresh air. He had suggestions like don't use wood chips for the path, use stone, and he had, various reasons for that. Other than that, he had suggestions, many suggestions. It was pretty favorable. I think it's a good use of the land so that you get, a better attraction. And, if this takes off, it could. One of the questions I had is for the grass cutting. I guess the city would need another piece of equipment. So I asked if a resident like myself could go out and fundraise specifically for that. Like if I went to the local veterinarian and said, hey, we're looking at putting this dog park up, could we do some type of fundraising in a certain amount? And it was my understanding that it could definitely be the case, that we could fundraise, have a budget for the equipment to actually maintain the dog park. The gentleman at the parks specifically said that he wanted to see the revenue from the park go specifically to maintenance, so that you don't have a volunteer group, because I could suggest that, there's volunteer groups to cut and whatnot. Another issue is the county normally has a 10-acre parcel, so there'd be an acre, like 1.45 acres remaining. If the parking would become an issue, I didn't want to put a parking lot in because I wanted to use the sublot by Gander Mountain and try that space first, but eventually down the road, you could asphalt it if this is something that the community wanted, to add additional parking there as well. So strategically, where you put the gates, I'd want to put the gates like you're one and done, so that if there'd be continuous growth, people could park on an additional acre if you actually wanted to make that investment. But I'm trying to stretch the dollar, I'm trying to be frugal with taxpayers' money, and I think we should just utilize a different, not do the asphalt parking or anything like that, just two gates, an internal portion. My elder person looked into the EPA records. We got 36 inches of solid soil cap, so it's good enough to walk on, it's good enough for dogs to run on at this point. And I don't think homeowners are gonna let their dogs dig down 36 inches in a hole. I hope not. But yeah, so that's my idea.
Okay. All right, that was the gentlemanly thing to do. Alderwoman Hanneman and then Alderman Nelson.
Thanks, Shelley. And I'll reiterate a lot of what I said at the Parks Commission last night. Thank you for the footwork and bringing the idea forward. I'm a big cheerleader for this for several reasons. But I think one of the things...
2 goldies?
2 goldies. And lobbying husband for a third.
You didn't say that on the record, did you?
Yeah, I did.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
I did.
Sherry, look at me. You did not say that on the record.
She seems to be okay with it.
Moving
so-
on.
2 is okay.
Moving along. I think one of the other concerns was getting water in there, because we need to have a little hose-off station and be able to fill up water dishes and whatnot. So that was maybe one of the other additional costs that we might have to look at, so I just wanted to add that on. You know, I just think this is a really clever use of some property in Franklin that will likely never be able to be developed for any, you know, discernible commercial usage, being the Superfund site. So, you know, I think we call it the Superfun Dog Park, but I think it's a great way to look outside the box. I know we have issues back there with dumping on the Gander Mountain old parking lot, and we have semi-parking going back there overnight. So this might help alleviate some of those problems as well. So I would urge our council members to support this and help find a way to get something fun and good done for our community that doesn't cost a lot of money.
Alderman Nelson?
Hi, Shelley, thanks for coming forward with this. And Commissioner Wrench is extremely knowledgeable on how these operate, and I have a lot to do with some of these as well, as far as fee comp. Are you looking at mirroring that type of what the county does, as far as daily, week, or daily pass, annual pass?
Annual
Senior
pass.
discount?
Yep, senior discount, yep.
And how do you plan on enforcing that? That's one of the biggest challenges the county has, and the Ranger program actually goes out and does a fee comp of north of 50 grand every year. So that means they're going out there and verifying permits,
The answer to
tags.
that is no.
What's that?
We're not hiring somebody to do that.
I didn't, hold on, I didn't, I'm not asking any, just, right?
Well, yeah,
So
I would like.
I just wonder what your plan is to do that, because you're gonna pay, people are gonna show up and no one's paying for nothing, and they're just gonna walk in and do what they're gonna do. That's what they do in all the parks.
Yeah, that's true. I was at the Park Commission, even with litter. Well, I guess that you could post a fine, but I would think, you know, that it's not a free park, because dog parks are normally not a free park.
No, they're not, but you have to have an enforcement component and checking permits. I'm just letting you know, and this is, you know, there's a lot of information out there that's on the parks website that you are open to use.
Okay.
You'll see that, and
Okay.
also there's a lot of stats there. That's the reality of it. It's a great idea, awesome idea. It's needed. There's a lot of demand for it. I just, you know, want to know what your fee structure was like, and do you buy them online, do you buy them there? Because people, sell them.
Card swipe lock,
What's that?
a card swipe lock.
So you would have to get your, okay.
Yeah, you could possibly pick up a card swipe from the Franklin City that would use to open it.
And they prop it open. But anyway, but Curry Park is the one.
Well, you would know that, so that's
But-
that's why I
but-
didn't want a cash thing there either for vandals, and
No.
there goes the cash.
But the
and-
Curry Park part is exactly what you want to model it after, with the division of the small and large. I mean, Mike Wrench he's right on the money. So I think it's a great idea. Thank you for coming.
Right, and I didn't want to spend any more money in engineering costs. I was thinking we could just use that, to be honest.
So here's the deal. An Alderwoman in Hanneman called me just pleading with me not to be my normal self. Look, Peggy laughs. Because she knows where I'm coming from, because kindred spirits, right? Because I got to watch the dollar sitting in the middle chair, right?
Oh, for sure.
So my first thing is if Franklin's going to put up the money, it's got to be a Franklin Park.
Yes.
Because the county owns every dog park in the county, and they're closing them down, right, Mike? Right, John?
No.
They want to close down the dog parks because they can't afford them.
I haven't heard that, but,
Last night he said they were doing some rotating closures for maintenance.
Yeah, for maintenance.
The rotating closures for maintenance, because you will see huge wear marks, and follow him to the guideline about the water and everything. I mean, they're profit, they're cost neutral.
so just, Mayor,
So-
so what he was saying is because they try to close them down so that the grass grows on this park, and then they open it up so that they get the grass to grow. So there was this gentleman is very knowledgeable, but they don't close down the parks because of maintenance.
Well, okay.
Yeah, and
My
he
la-
said they're actually they're cost effective, they're cost neutral. But Mr. Nelson over there wants me to make sure I get every penny, I'm gonna try to think of how to make sure nobody can, or just to make sure that they're, good people there not abusing the system. I do like the card swipe, or, I was thinking of I didn't want any cash because I just was worried that somebody would vandalize the cash. So if it could be credit card, where that's not cash, digital money going right to the city is what I was thinking.
I haven't even gotten started.
Okay, well, no, let's,
Everybody else
okay,
wants
that's
to
the first
talk.
one.
Maybe after I get started here.
Okay.
So, you just went through the budget presentation.
Yeah, there's
We don't
nothing.
have extra money.
Nope.
Milwaukee County, and I'm okay with this, but it's at the edge of Franklin. So we're gonna get Oak Creek people, we're gonna get South Milwaukee people. And I'm okay with that, if they pay.
Correct.
And they don't pay what Franklin pays, because it's Franklin people that are gonna be maintaining this thing, right? So whatever we do, it's 2 or 3 times whatever the Franklin cost is. My problem is right now is getting this organized such that we know what we're doing. And Mike Wrench is the key to this. And the Parks Commission. So you gotta lean on them.
Okay.
But we got issues, John, as you know, of people propping the gate open and all the rest of that stuff, but that's gonna happen. But it's gotta be neutral in terms of labor. Glenn doesn't have guys to cut it. We got equipment, but not enough guys to cut it. So we gotta figure that out. So we gotta get enough revenue to maintain it. Pick up the dog poop, make sure, you gotta have water there, right?
Well, not necessarily. There's some dog parks, that's not mandatory, that's more on the wish list. There's other dog parks that are like,
I'd like to get my statements finished before I get
Oh, I'm
argued
sorry.
with,
well, I just wanted to correct you that we don't have to, because that would bring more money to the
Okay,
project
listen,
as well.
you guys go ahead. Alderman Wilhelm, I'm done.
Okay.
No,
So
really, Mayor.
I just want,
I'm out.
I
You
just
guys
want
do
to
it.
say that
I'm out.
all of this talk about how we're gonna fund this and how we're gonna put this, and we're gonna, way ahead of everything. First step, I made 2 phone calls, one to Menards and one to the people, and they took over the Yonder Mountain store. First step is getting a lease. And see, they said they like the idea, but that's a far cry from having an agreement. So what we're here to do is ask to move forward with looking at what could be negotiated for agreements and what this council would like. Are you stuck on a 1-year, 2-year lease? What would you like to see? What are your asks? What are your bottom line things that you won't budge on? We're not looking to do this idea. Anybody, Park Commission, council, sure, any of us are not looking to lose at this a big expense. Especially if you're only gonna lease the land for 2 years. You don't wanna put in a bunch of stuff.
Right.
So you put most minimal possibly can, possibly like the card reader, because that's the important thing to get the money for the maintenance of the site, and a couple other gates, and then the separation for the dog sizes, and that's as far as you want to go in your first year. You don't want to spend a bunch of money. So, lease, that's what we should be talking about right now, and that's where the city attorney comes in. So, just.
And I don't know, I have a lease, and 2 to 5 years is kind of the norm, but if you want to go, 2 years just as a pilot project, I'm fine with that. But I do appreciate the feedback from the mayor, so that he kind of directs me. He's been doing this a whole lot longer than I have, so I appreciate the additional information to look into, but. But Menards is interested in some type of proposal. I don't draft these proposals. Yeah, I have no idea.
Super fun. Mayor, whenever you have a chance. Go ahead, give all the women's time.
I was just wondering if the city attorney had any points or consideration when we talk lease, because that's what he comes, okay.
Hey, Shelley, you're bringing a concept to us. No, nothing at all. Nothing at all. I'm a little concerned about the potential liability with the city. Okay. The finances and how it's going to be handled. But basically you want to know if we're interested in you pursuing and moving forward. But we also want to see a business plan. Okay, I want to see the P&L. I want to see where your projected revenues are going to come in at and what your anticipated costs are going to be. Okay? And then when you figure out, is the city going to be involved with capturing the annual fee? Okay, then we have to make sure that we have a hold harmless against the city for any dog issues that occur out there, okay? You'll be funny, state law doesn't matter. It's when it happens, they're gonna go to the deepest pockets, okay? It doesn't matter what the law states. I'm in the business, I know it, okay?
No, all valid points, very good.
I'm just trying to make sure that when we get to that point of saying, yes, we'll do it, I want to make sure our Ts are crossed and our Is are dotted, okay? Because we can get references and referrals from veterinarians, every veterinarian that surrounds, this area. But we've got to come up with a cost structure for people that are in city, just like our Park and Rec does. We're in city and out of city, okay?
Yep.
So, yeah, you've got some good thoughts, okay? It's some vacant land that is undevelopable. It's a super fund, it's contaminated, okay? It could serve a very practical purpose for people, especially with larger animals. I don't necessarily agree that all small dogs have to be with small dogs and all big dogs have to be with big dogs. There are older, bigger dogs that will be definitely very comfortable with small dogs. And they actually enjoy being in the small dog group because they don't care for the energy level that is in the big dog area, okay? So,
Absolutely.
So there's, and there's nobody gonna be policing it, but if we got a bunch of friends that are watching and our dogs are over here watching and all of a sudden you hear the roar, everybody missed what happened, okay? So there's no one gonna be policing it, so everybody's gonna be on their own to manage their own dogs.
Yes.
Okay, so, that's where I wanna make sure that there's gonna, people are gonna be signing off that they are totally responsible for, the activity that would occur with their dog out there.
So would the profit or the revenue information from the county be feasible for my business plan? If I said, well, what did the county make off of Curry Park or whatever park, and brought that information, what was the amount of people that, you know,
You start with-
purchased an annual
You can start with
pass?
you can start with some place, but you come up with a business plan of, hey, if it's gonna be $100 a year for a thing, or $50 a year, I don't know. But, yeah, use something that's out there already, and then you can kind of figure things out accordingly. I just want to make sure that you know what all the practical expenses are going to be, and that you're going to estimate, hey, I might have, the first year, I might have 200 applications, you know, for, you know, and then you might, year two, you might say, hey, I might go up to 300. Okay.
I can get that data, and there's a lot of stuff online with other organizations that even help you develop a dog park.
Sure.
So
sure.
I can bring that data.
What I would do is work with the Parks Department, put the proposal together, and show that it's a viable request. Because, as the mayor's saying, we don't have the money to, we're not your super fund.
No, yeah, oh goodness.
Okay,
I'm looking
and,
at this, making money with this
but-
or breaking even.
But the key is it's gonna be confusing when it's in the city of Franklin, and who are people going to pay? You may have better luck if it's run under the city umbrella versus not under the city, just for
We don't
vision
have the
and stuff.
people to process the applications, to take the money, to do card swipes.
Steve, right now,
We don't have those people.
I'm just saying, propose your idea. I don't know what the idea is.
But Shelley,
Okay.
we don't have those people.
Correct. I'm not saying that the
Clerk's
city wants
office
to do
doesn't
it.
have time to do that.
But-
I'm just letting you know
Yep.
in advance, so.
Okay.
Put a plan
Mayor.
together with your anticipated ways of how you're gonna operate. And
well-
discuss it with them, with the Parks Department, and we'll go
So
from
do you like the idea? Does this board like the idea? And it's just a matter of me going to get more data and talking with the attorney on what a lease would be involved if moving forward?
My little 8-pound dachshund, who bigger than Trixie was, will be out there practicing for the Dachshund Dash.
Oh, neat. I actually know what that is.
Absolutely. But she's faster than,
That's
Your dog.
than the mayor. But there's a lot of things you can do out there. You can actually have the decoy with the rabbit going around, and you can actually, people will pay $20 for a 5-minute session where their dog runs around in a circle chasing the rabbit on a rope as it goes through the field.
So
you
I
got-
could charge for classes at the dog park?
You can do anything you want on that. It's gonna be your lease, so. It's your show. It's your show. So come up with some creative ideas, because you have to make sure you can afford to maintain it.
No.
The city wants to
I
make
thought this was going to be like a city dog park, not my dog
See?
park.
The mayor just said it wasn't going to be a city dog park. So,
I thought
you know what? I would say, put together your thoughts. Don't get the thoughts from us. Put together a recommendation of how you see this going, and then present it to Parks, and then they recommend it to the common council.
okay, so I was going to model after the county park.
Okay.
And for a viable use of this land that's just been sitting there, that Menards is interested in some type of agreement with the city to make it a dog park. Because when I think
Shall
of
we-
a dog park, I think,
I think that the bottom line, and I keep saying it.
Mayor?
It's all about the lease, the two.
Okay.
So, it would be nice if, the council would,
yeah, I'm not talented or educated enough to write a lease
I don't know,
on
we gotta
a
solve the
11.45.
Next one to speak is Alderman Barber. He's been sitting back there patiently for a day.
Okay, sorry.
There is a dog park on Rawson Avenue currently.
Okay.
Is that county-owned, a county-owned
Yes.
facility?
Runway, thanks.
Which is just down the road from this location.
Yeah, they talked about it last night.
So what I'm wondering, is there any statistics about what the usage of that park is? And if you're going to be able to draw from there, if you're gonna need that, is because it is a competitor that's within a couple miles of where you're gonna be. So I'd be concerned about what their data is showing. Is it feasible for them, and what kind of numbers gets generated there before you would expand that and try to draw from that here in Franklin?
But that's in Oak Creek. It's not as nice as ours will be.
Well, is it
Okay,
fenced in?
But it's a competitor for you.
Yes, and is the park fenced in completely? 10 acres or 11
I
point?
just know it's a dog park, and
Oh, it's huge.
so it would be your competitor, and that's what I'd be concerned about.
Well, I'm not looking at this as a business. I'm looking at this as a proposal for a city park for the residents. Did you think I was thinking of this as my own business, like to run a dog park as a business?
No, but it points to the feasibility of what you're proposing.
Okay.
Dogs.
Michelle, I'm confused. You're thinking that it's going to be the city that's going to operate. I don't know if this has to be rezoned yet. This has to come to a plan for rezoning of any kind. I'm not sure if this is even an approved operation to go on this site. Those are other questions. Do we have to rezone it parkland? I don't know. So, the general question is, A, are we interested in potentially entertaining a dog park at this area? Okay, sure, we're interested. The next thing is you work with all the professionals to figure out what has to be done to get there, okay?
Well, here's the issue with that. Mayor, can I?
I'll submit the floor.
Alderwoman Wilhelm.
You're asking, she's bringing an idea for Franklin to say, do you want to do something in your city as a park for your residents? I have this idea. And we're basically telling, yeah, go get your own attorney and go figure that out. And she's doing this as an idea, and I think what the next step would be, and Shelley, I guess I can be the one to help you with this, is to call Menards and the other owner and ask them about lease, and maybe you and I can have, because it doesn't seem like anybody wants to, I guess I have to be an attorney for you, because I cannot see you having to do that. I mean,
This
that's
is why
just
we have a
silly.
Parks Commission.
So-
I would do it. Exactly what you just said.
That's
We're
what I was
talking about
hoping
it.
for.
Never ending.
That's what I was hoping for, and I'm like, can't we just?
Well, I would appreciate if you'd
look
help
into
me.
it?
And
I'll do it myself. But I will have questions for you, but I would call the property owners. Is it possible to do a lease? And what terms would you require in it, period, and I'll bring that back.
I've already, just to let everybody know, I've already made the 2 initial phone calls. Both parties like the idea and are interested. Then it comes down to the details. That's where the city attorney comes in, and that's why we're here.
Okay, but let's remember something. This is the decision-making body, not the do body, okay? Let the Parks Commission do what they're supposed to do and do the work, okay? Let's not, we've already spent, with all due
Yeah, I'm
respect,
sorry, I don't mean to waste your time.
We've already
Yeah.
spent 45 minutes on this. All we're supposed to do is say, yeah, go ahead. Talk to the Parks Commission.
I'm a doer, though. That's
That's fine. If you want to do it, but let the Parks Commission do it. This body says yes or no. That's all we're supposed to do, right?
Yep.
Okay. So work with the Parks Commission. Jesse will take care of the lease. Kristen, if you want to do that. But remember, Alderwoman Hanneman is the Parks Commission representative.
I absolutely
And work with the
remember that.
Parks Commission. Okay? All right. You okay?
I'm fine. So I'm going to then back to the Parks Commission next month to,
Well, we got to get Jesse to, and
How
Kristen.
about I
to-
just make a motion? We make a motion to have the city attorney look into lease options as discussed and report back when he has it.
Report back to the Parks Commission.
He can report back to the Parks Commission.
Thank you. Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I might have conflicts during the Parks Commission. Off the top of my head, I have village board meetings, usually on the same.
Email will work just fine.
If you get that lease from Menards by the end of the month, you can get 11% off.
If it fits in a bag.
Now we're done. We went a high note.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. It's got to fit in the bag, though.
And if I may correct the record.
I'm just gonna get available terms offered by them.
You're not going to have a piece of paper.
If I may correct the record, the mayor gently pointed out to me that I would be in violation of city code if I got that third puppy, so. But I could still have a mini horse.
Or your lot may be of suitable
Actually,
size.
there's a requirement of .46 acres, and you have .5, so you could get a fancier's permit.
Oh, thank you.
So it's a dog or a tiny horse, but not both.
Thank you.
G14 is a motion, I don't think we need to go to closed session. A potential sale of a parcel on 60th Street that used to be a water utility pumping station. Do we need to go to closed session? Is there a motion to enter closed session pursuant to Wisconsin 19.85 sub 1 sub E for market competition and bargaining reasons to consider potential sale of property owned by the city of Franklin at 9619 South 60th Street, Franklin, Wisconsin, bearing tax key 98999. Oh, no, let's not do that. Let's do licenses and bills first. You ready, John? All right, we'll do invoices first then.
We're gonna be talking about this for a minute.
That's fine. We talked about everything else tonight.
All right, I can go.
Okay, item H1 licenses, Alderman Nelson. We only got,
Okay, so what we're going to do is table this until the next meeting. And we're gonna
table item,
Rock Sports Complex, Hills Designs.
okay.
And we're gonna request that Courtney Day appear. Is that correct, fellow members?
Yes, and I wouldn't mind having an opinion of if the council feels like 1,500 people a day is a good idea.
Sure, we
Well,
can
all
go
city.
into some of the points we discussed openly. Some of our sticking points on this was yeah, we're good to talk now?
I don't know. City,
Sure.
yeah.
Okay, so we had some residents that showed up, we had a representative from Rock Ventures show up, and I guess we were looking for a few things, like a COVID mitigation plan. We also got confirmation on the times. They've got a plan where they are gonna have online 6 to 8, up to 500 people, 8 to 10, up to 500 people, 10 to midnight, up to 500 people, okay? So now they're presenting that part of it, which is good. We're concerned with spacing, and that's what we wanna get the feedback and input from Courtney Day. We understand last year's limits were 1,200 a day. This year, it's 1,500 a day. Granted, there's only 8 days offered for this entire Hills Have Eyes, but I guess non-pandemic was 1,200 a day, pandemic is 1,500 a day. We want to get her input on that. Very, very important. And that was not only all of our consensus, it was also the consensus of the citizens that attended. So we found that to be an issue. They did do some commitments for masks. They said that they were going to be able to have enforcement of mask wearing for this entire event, for the staff and those attending. So, but we wanted more of a hardened plan, or at least to get Courtney's input on this.
Smart. Alderman Danbury.
John, in regards to, I'm more concerned about the 10 to 12 timeframe. Does this mean that at 12 o'clock, it ceases completely?
Yes, I'll tell you about that, sir.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
so the 10 to 12, and we've got this, that it's a dead stop. At 12 PM, we're not gonna play the semantics game of ambient sound. It's nothing. It's birds chirping and snails sleeping is all we're gonna hear. Because there's nothing. I mean, zip, no music, no DJ, no nothing. Agreed?
Except for one thing.
No, there was midnight, there is nothing going on. It's
This
done.
isn't important, though. Can I fill this?
Hold on.
I'm reading right from the documents from last year, which are different. Again, the box office ticket sales are to end at 10 PM. They're asking to sell,
Everything online ahead of time.
right, but they have midnight on their times. Right on here, ticketing timed from 6 PM to 12 AM. So I'm a little confused on their end time when we say that, because if they were ending at 10 PM in 2019, and now they're saying ending at 12 PM, they've extended it a couple more hours. And by calling it time ticketing, that's just sort of a way around it. It's really important that you look and compare from year to year and look and see how much more they're extending with population and time extensions. And I think that was the citizens' concerns.
Well, I don't understand that, if I may. They can have ticketing 24 hours a day. It depends on, are they selling tickets in time blocks? And I understand it to be in time blocks.
Yes, sir, they are.
So if they're selling a ticket for the 10 to 12 PM time block, doesn't matter what time, no, PM.
No, it says AM on here.
Well, it is.
Wait, stop. Don't correct me, because I'm saying what I want to say. If they sell a ticket at 1 o'clock AM for a 10 to 12 PM time slot,
Why would they be doing it during the day? 12 PM is.
listen to what I'm saying. 10 to 12 PM, that's 35 minutes from now.
Yeah.
I'm going there to get scared, right? I have to be done out of there quiet by the end of that ticket slot. What difference does it make if I buy it at 1:15 AM? It makes no difference.
As long as it's online.
Clear?
Right, yes.
So it should,
So it makes no difference when you buy the ticket. It only matters what time slot you buy it for.
Yes.
and when you enter and knowing that you are out of there regardless of what time you enter.
Correct. So it's key that at 12:01 AM, dead silent.
Dead silence.
But like
Right, Kristen, does that make sense?
It was shut down earlier last year, as Kristen said.
Right, that's what I'm,
Queuing time.
That's because they were selling tickets on site though.
Correct.
Okay.
That's the difference.
So the dead,
They're not doing it on site this year, right?
They're gonna have a box office, a small one, but they have to have something for some walk-ups, but they can't exceed the 500
We're not
floor.
selling walk-ups, to my understanding, it's only, the ticket office is only there to resolve the sort of technological issues that might have arisen when someone downloaded their ticket.
it says in here, music and event tent limited hours to 6 to 10 PM on Thursday and Sundays from 6 PM to 11 PM. That is not what they're doing this year. This is last time. They're adding an extra hour, so they need to clearly spell it. We shouldn't have to be guessing what they're trying to tell us and when. So just put a
Yep.
timeline out, none of this, actually, they could take the license from last year and do it right off the license from last year, and if there's anything not clear in here about ticket sales or whatever, it gets spelled out. Because this is kind of all over the place. Oh, is it online sales or, that's.
Did they present a COVID plan?
We
have that restriction.
getting a handle on what would a 50% capacity look like in this venue.
Yeah, we're not under that order, though.
We're not, no, but we need something to compare.
Absolutely
And put
right.
some thought behind what we will and won't allow.
Okay, the motion is to table.
Can we see that in written form before next meeting? Because it shouldn't be a time when they're gonna come into the meeting again, and you guys all discuss it again.
Right.
And they bring nothing to the table. This should be in writing ahead of time, along with Courtney's plan, and straight up on the times too, so that we can all see it ahead of time. Then you guys can take it to licensing and adjust it, but it shouldn't be that you're putting the whole game together at licensing.
Well, Alderman Wilhelm, and then let's kind of move.
I would also like to see the cases from today until 2 weeks from now on where we're at. Because for me, in this community, it's way more important for us to keep our schools open than to have a Halloween party with 1,500 people a day. And
Well, the
I-
dashboard's updated every other day.
that's right, so I would like to see those numbers. I don't want to have to dig them up myself.
All you gotta do is
I wanna
go
see
online.
'em.
They're online every other day.
Yeah, we can just get them presented to us. If they're that simple to get, you know, we can get them, right?
Mayor?
I mean, Courtney works in the health department, she's gonna be there.
Alderman Barber.
My concern is that we're apparently having extended hours and more people in a period of time that is stressful, and we don't know what the results are. We see schools shutting down, more and more students. I mean, I don't know what's going to be happening this fall to make that kind of a commitment. I'd also like to know possibly if there's any history as to the noise levels last year, and if there were any complaints about that going out into the community, just as a benchmark, because we're extending the hours now, and I don't want to have that infringe more upon the residents, given the fact that we had this discussion last time we met.
I don't have an answer to that. Okay, the motion is to table, and I would encourage the license committee to have a special meeting if you can get that information. All those to table the Rock Complex Hills and Size.
Aye.
To the next meeting, or
Special.
a special meeting called by the committee. Let's do that again. All those in favor?
Aye.
The committee.
Committee.
Sandy will take care.
Any one of them can call. Let's try this again. All those in favor to table to either the next council meeting or a special meeting called by any one of the co-chairs. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next
We will
item,
all be informed about that special meeting, not just licensing.
of course, so it'll be posted like Alderman Nelson.
Okay, I'm gonna, with this one, defer to the council if he's got any comments on this. If not, we were gonna approve it.
Okay, so it was going to be approved outside of comments? Or recommended for approval?
Recommended for approval,
Okay.
sir.
Well, the very short version, this has been on the to-dos list when it was first and only time here on June 2. Discussion ended with me suggesting, we should work towards an agreement where it's in writing that the Boy Scouts donate, or, that it is donated to the city, maybe insurance, et cetera. And I know my notes reflect that there was a yes statement or nod from the applicant. The last time I had any contact on this was on or about June 22 from the library director with questions for it to be on the library board that day. The library board on May 18th had previously conceptually approved, subject to obtaining all other city approvals that might be required. On June 22, the library board tabled it, and I have not heard anything since those dates and time. So I called the library director today because it was minutes say tabled on the library board. And she said, well, it was simply tabled based on a conceptual approval because the individual was supposed to recontact the library board to just inform them of the status of obtaining all approvals. So anyway, that's where it's somewhat at. I never got to any contact information and no, I never heard anything
Well,
else.
there's
So,
another reason.
I have a few points and there should be contact, and my thought is, okay, party here, is it the Boy Scouts of America or is it the individual? Potential available insurance. With regard to the application on page 3 of this specific application, there's an indemnity provision which wasn't signed. And confer with the building inspector, and that any approval here would be subject to obviously obtaining all Department of Inspection permits required, and that any acceptance by the city would simply be upon inspection of a final complete project by the Director of Inspection Services or department staff, and that it meets all requirements. Also that the subject is donated free and clear in terms of any potential liens, et cetera. And finally, that the library director or library board is in approval with this moving forward. I noticed on the application, the event date was 2 days ago. So the thought would be to approve the application so that it potentially moves forward together with review with the applicant of the subject matters mentioned by the city and the attorney on the record at this meeting for review and approval by the library director, the director of administration, and the city attorney. And if there's substantial issues that we become aware of, we'll obviously bring it back to the council.
The clerk first, then Alderman Wilhelm,
Mine will be real quick.
and then I'll throw you all in.
On September 3rd, after it was filed and paid for by Noah Gransard, our office did call and tell, I don't know if it was him or one of his parents, that the insurance does need to be provided, listing the city as an additional insured, and also the hold harmless was not signed, so he was informed of those two, and we've yet to get anything back on it.
And I was going to hopefully be done with or actually leave a Board of Water Commissioners meeting to go to the Parks Commission meeting, or the License Committee meeting to address these issues with the applicant. And by phone call, I found out, after I made a number of phone calls today, I finally found out a little before 4 that the applicant would not be attending the committee meeting. So.
Alderman Wilhelm.
So, touchy subject. I'm not the one who brought it up. I'll start off with that.
Jesus.
But
What a
one
witness.
of the reasons why the library board wanted the council and city attorney's legal opinion was having to do with something like the whole thing, like, and I don't know how to put this because this isn't, it's like the Christmas tree versus the holiday tree. And the subject matter is along the same line, and there was concern by certain members about certain types of religions and how that would be taken. So, I'm passing that on because that was what they wanted to make sure, because they're not out to put something up that's gonna offend any particular religion or whatever.
I'm gonna answer that. Franklin is like 92% Christian.
Ugh. Irrelevant.
I'd like to hear
I'm
the
good.
city attorney's
I'm
opinion.
gonna, let's just forget about it. Mr. City Attorney.
I was informed by the library director today that what I had sent back, I believe on June 22nd, was acceptable to the library board, and they were satisfied with the various case law citations, et cetera. I did not put a conclusion,
get
but
it?
it cited a legal opinion which says here's everything you have to consider in that regard. So if the council wants to see that, then this should simply be put over to the next meeting. Well,
Or you can leave it up to the library board if you're okay, but they just.
that's why I
You know.
said, get an approval from the library director or the library board if necessary, but I was informed that all they're waiting for was, what we're waiting for was an update from Noah Gransard.
Anyway, so Noah calls me and says, Steve, can you have PPW dig out the foundation for me? What did I say, Peggy? She doesn't know what she knows. He says, okay, Noah, the answer to that is, sure, probably. Probably not when you need it, but here's the deal. You're working on an Eagle Scout project, right? This is supposed to be your project, you're supposed to take care of everything, right? So the answer is no. You're supposed to find someone to do that for you. You're not supposed to call the city and ask the city to do it for you for free. So I suggest you call a plumber, or a friend of your dad's, or a neighbor who's got a contract, and have them do it. But first, you've got to stake it out. You gotta call the library and make sure that you've got some cones there where the guy's gonna drive his truck. You gotta arrange to get all of the spoils out of there. So you got some work to do, so I don't think you're gonna be doing your, or you can get a couple of guys and some shovels and a pickup truck, and do it by hand. But, no, I'm not gonna have to do it. Sorry, Noah, that's a little bit of tough. And then I called his dad, coming to be a sergeant at MPD. Told him I told him that. So, there you go. That's why we haven't heard from him. He's either pouting or just trying to find a backup. So there you go. So, there's work to be done.
So can we move on?
Well, you gotta tell us what you wanna do, what's your recommendation?
Table it to the next meeting.
Should we hold it off the next meeting until we get more information, or what do you want to do?
Just table it to the next meeting.
Table to next meeting, that's my motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Move back to G14, is there a motion to enter closed session pursuant to 1995-1E? For market competition and bargaining reasons that consider real property owned by the city of Franklin at 9619 South 60th Street, Franklin, Wisconsin, for tax 9997-011. Such property previously public water well site use and to re-enter open session is simply correct. And as this matter as discussed herein on the item 15.
So move.
Second.
It's a very important page.
Do vouchers yet, so don't forget to do those. Alderman Dandria. Aye. Alderman Mayor.
Aye.
Alderwoman Wilhelm.
Aye.
Alderwoman Hanneman.
Aye.
Alderman Barber.
Aye.
Alderman Nelson.
Aye.
Motion carries 6 ayes, no noes, no absent, no abstentions. We are in closed session.